Hello folks and welcome back to another video on the channel. Now today is a very special video because we have the new project for the YouTube channel. Finally, I can't believe it. Now you have probably seen what it is by the thumbnail and title, but I think what I've bought is one of, if not the cheapest, Toyota Starlet in the UK. And here it is. Ta-da! A 1999 Toyota Starlet S. So let's take a look at it because it's pretty bad. So yeah, there we have it, the new project car for the channel, the Toyota Starlet S. Now as you would have seen from those clips there, the bodywork on this is pretty bad. I mean, we've got exposed primer, exposed filler, we've got different shades of blue on there, we're missing a radio. I mean, the boot's been all hacked and stuff. It is needing a lot of work, but mechanically it seems pretty good. But there's no point just standing here talking to you about it. I'm going to go around the car, show you all the bad bits, show you the good bits. There aren't many, but we'll go around it and then we'll just have a wee talk about it and then we'll get on with the rest of the video. Right, so we can now do a wee walk around of the car and we'll start off from the back end, and it's not great from here. Now you might see this tape is covering the boot lid, and that is for a very good reason. Yeah, the last owner left the key inside the car and locked himself out, so he had to destroy the barrel and the boot in the process. So yeah, this isn't great, so we're probably going to need a new boot lid for there. Another thing is the big cherry bomb exhaust. It moves about quite a bit and it actually hits off the metal part of the body, sort of in the back panel there, and it makes a really annoying rattling noise when you're driving, so that's a bit of a nightmare. One last thing about the back end is this backlight. The brake light doesn't work in here, so I'm assuming it's just a bulb, which would be pretty good if it's that. As we come round to the driver's side quarter here, you might notice there is some primer here. Yeah, so this was done by the last owner as well. I mean, all the arches look pretty solid down here. I mean, even the back end of the sills here, all solid, but it just needs some colour really. Though the back bumper's also a wee bit messed up under there, so I can try and fix the fitment on that when we get round to that. Down to the door, there isn't much to say about this. I mean, we're just missing the bump strips right down the side on this side. Unfortunately, I don't have them, so we're going to have to leave them off the car, which I don't think will look bad anyway, because they don't come on the car on a Glanza anyway, so it can make it look a bit faster. We also have this repair job up here on the pillar, just before the roof. There's actually scuffs on the roof as well there, so probably going to have to do the roof. It's going to be pretty much a full respray if I'm honest, if we're being realistic about it. So we've got a wee repair bit here. I'm going to sort all that out eventually. A wee bit of the door's been sanded as well, so that'll all have to be sorted. Front wing has also been painted with that dark blue aerosol there, but we also have a wee bit of chipping and stuff on this wing. I don't know what's went on there, but we can sort that all out. There's also a couple of dents. There's a wee dent here and stuff, and then a couple along there towards the indicator. Then we can come round to the front end. Gets a wee bit tight round here, but the front bumper's also been hit with the aerosol paint, and somebody's grands also grazed this front bumper corner. So it's going to be a front bumper as well. We'll paint the front bumper at least anyway, or we can try and get a cool one. Bonnet's actually alright. The paint's just a bit faded and stuff, but that might polish up, I don't know, because I don't really want to paint the bonnet, because that's another big panel. Round to this wing on the passenger side, again, scuffed and stuff. I don't know what's went on, but it's all easy fixable. They've also hit this wing with a sort of darker blue, and the same on this side on the bumper corner. This side we have the bump strips down the door and the wing, just not on the quarter, but that's the worst part of the car. We'll get to that eventually. Wing mirrors scuffed as well. I don't know if we'll colour code them as well as the handles. I think that would look quite smart. Windscreen's all alright. I mean, that's fine, but I'd expect that to be fine anyway. But here is the worst piece on the car, the passenger side rear quarter. I mean, it's not great. We have a lot of filler here. The last owner said that it wasn't that thick of a skim, so hopefully it shouldn't be. But to be fair, if you look at it side on, there doesn't look to be much on there. But I will be stripping this all off. I mean, I don't know how long this has been on the car, and this is exposed filler. and filler and primer is porous, so I don't know how much moisture has got in behind there or in with it, so all of that's going to need to come off, and I'll just start again from bare metal. But yeah, it's not great, but it's just another thing to do with bodywork, which shouldn't be a massive issue for myself since I can do all of that. Again, on the lower half of the car though, really solid on this side. It's set for this bit here. I mean, it's solid, but it's been junted right up. I mean, I think somebody's jacked it up on the sill, which is always unfortunate. I can try and sort that out some way, but I don't know how we're going to do that. But in terms of the actual metal itself, it is all solid, which is really, really great. And the same with underneath of the car. I mean, it's a wee bit scabby, but as you can see under there, it all looks pretty solid. We'll get it jacked up eventually, but for now, it looks alright. We have Mazda MX-5 sport wheels as well. Some of you might have noticed that, but all 4 wheels are going to need tyres because these ones are cracked. Some of them don't have great tread, and yeah, they just need changed over. We'll step into the interior now where things get a bit interesting. First thing you'll notice, we don't have a radio. I mean, we do have a radio, but it's not in there. We have a radio in the glove box there. It's an old GVC one. I did hook it up, it does work, but it doesn't fit into that area. So I'm going to probably try and find an original Starlet radio just to go in there to make it a bit less a hassle. But with the rest of the interior, I mean, it's not too bad. It is just really, really grubby. Cool seats, I love the seats designs. It's the same on the door card there, the same pattern there. But as I say, it is just really grubby and in need of a good clean, which we will sort out in this video. That's going to be the main thing in this video. That's what we always do with every project car on the channel. Got to show you another positive is on this driver's side sill as well. That thing is solid, look at it. Just a wee bit grubby, but like, it looks pretty fresh, especially for what, 20 odd year old. Another positive is under the boot floor here. It's all pretty solid under here, which is pretty surprising with it being Japanese. But yeah, a wee bit of crispiness there, but that's probably just for a wee bit of moisture coming in out over the years. But yeah, overall solid. We have the spare wheel as well under there. But yeah, it just needs a tidy up. I don't really want to touch much in here. Pip's interested in the car as well. You like it, Pip? I'm glad I've not cleaned the car yet because Pip has taken over the interior. I've now popped the bonnet as well to let you see under here. Now you would have seen a quick clip of it when we showed off the car at the start of the video, but a wee bit of a closer look. And I was really surprised with how clean this engine bay was, just like I was with the MX-5. I mean, these are both really clean. I am really surprised. We also have the aftermarket intake. We have the 4EFE 1.3 engine. These are meant to be bomb-proof, these engines. Pretty much like the K11 Micra 1 litre 1.3 engine. But you might see it's a wee bit wet down there, a wee bit moist, and that is because we have a leak from the rocker cover gasket. So you can see just where it's leaking here on the corners here, and I think there's a wee bit of a leak at the back corner as well, but that should be an easy fix. Hopefully we'll get all that cleaned up down there and then change the gasket. I think they're about £20, so shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, not much to write home about under the bonnet, but it all looks pretty decent. So now that I've briefly shown you around the car, all the good bits, all the bad bits, I want to get this interior clean because, as you have seen, it's pretty bad. Going to get the seats shampooed, shampoo the carpets, clean all the plastics and stuff, just get it a really good clean because it does need one. So let's get on with that. So I started off by hoovering the driver's side carpet, and from this angle it doesn't look too bad because of the grey colour of the carpet, but up close it was pretty bad. So I can get it hoovered and then I can go in there with the drill brush after that. I can then get in there with some cleaner and the drill brush on the front and back carpets. And then I can do the same on the passenger side. Right, now that we have the carpets looking relatively decent on all 4 corners, we need to get those manky seats shampooed now, because the front ones don't look too bad, but you can just see there's some bad staining on the sort of grey bits. And then if you look into the back, there's some deeper stains back there, so we're going to try and get them out if we can. That would be brilliant, just to sort of freshen these up a bit. This is exactly what we've done on the Nova, just to freshen the seats up a bit, and it makes the interior look a lot better. So let's get these shampooed. So it was straight onto the driver's seat with the wet vac, and this is a very satisfying job. If you have done this before, then you'll know what I mean, but if you haven't, definitely give it a try. This one is a vac spot wash. I picked it up for about £130, and I wouldn't recommend this one because, as you can see, I've got that hose taped up there because it just burst. I've only used this a handful of times and it's ended up doing that, which is unfortunate, but it does shampoo pretty well. And there we have the seats extracted as well, so shampooed and extracted. I done the driver's one yesterday, so it's good. So now that one's dry so that I can sit on the seat. But that is the rest of them done as well. I didn't do the door cards because I thought they weren't too bad, and we'll be cleaning the plastics on them anyway, so I can give them a wee run over with the drill. That was aggressive, but the back's done as well. Obviously we've still got a few marks and stuff, a few wee stains and that, but overall a lot better. I also ran over the carpet in the boot. It still doesn't look great down there, but you can't really do much with that. I mean, it's a grey carpet in a boot where stuff gets stored, but overall looking a lot better. So now we need to get on with doing the grubby plastic steering wheels and stuff, like loads of dust and that everywhere. And I mean, look at the little handle there, that's a pulley bit, disgusting. So we're gonna get this all cleaned, so that's looking all fresh now too. Right, I can't wait to see this once we get this all cleaned up. It's going to be so different. It looks so much better. That's disgusting. Look at all that coming off. That looks so much better already. You can see all of that dirt's just coming right off of there. And look at the difference in that door card. Wow, that looks so much better. I could then put some time into those grubby sill trims. Right, next up we'll get the steering wheel cleaned. It's not too bad to be fair, it's just a wee bit shiny, so we'll get over that and then we'll get the rest of the dash and down here and stuff, and my missing radio area. But aye, already looking a lot better. Even the little kick plate bit, well, door trim sort of bit is looking a lot better. And with the passenger side cleaned, that is the interior complete on the Starlet, and what a difference, man. It looks so much better. Also found these floor mats in the boot, so I cleaned them up as well, and I'll use them so we can keep that grey carpet clean as well. But I'll give you a closer look at this interior now. now that the little Starlet had been cleaned, I thought I'd take it to one of my mates to see what they thought. Right, so I've brought the car to somebody's house, and it's Jude, he's right here. What is the thoughts on the car?
It's a car. My favourite parts being this.
That was the exhaust.
Yep. My other favourite part being this. Really good. So all in all, it's a great car. £5,000 or nearest offer. We will accept it. There's a reason why it's got 5 seats and a boot, is so you can fit loads of people in it. Obviously, it's equipped with dealership number plates, dealership sticker. It's got a wiper, which so you can see stuff. And
the car in front is a Toyota.
The car in front also has a massive gaping hole in the boot. Yeah, it runs really good, as you can hear. Like you can't even hear the engines running. Obviously, I just switched it on.
It's hybrid.
Yeah, no, it's just that silent. It's just a really good runner.
Can we get a rating out of 10 on this?
It's a solid 3.
3.
But now it's a solid 5.
Yeah, that is the aerial. Very nice. Yeah. So, 3.
You got your work cut out for you.
I do. Mainly bodywork though, to be fair, and you'd have to weld it.
That means it's 10. I love this car.
It's a 10 now.
Keep buying more cars like this. In fact, don't, but non-rusty cars, they're great.
I'm going to buy a car with no sills on it next time, and no floor.
We've done that before, cheers. It's not very good.
Nice, so the Starlet's now in the unit. This will probably be its new home for the next wee while till we get it all sorted. So in the first video on the car, when I bought it and cleaned the interior up, I mentioned that we have a leaky gasket underneath this rocker cover. But when I was doing the interior, I cleaned the engine bay as well, and I got most of the oil off of this area of the engine. But as you can see, it is still leaking on this corner there. That is some fresh oil just sitting under that corner on the rocker cover, and that's where I was told it was leaking from the most. So to fix this oil leak, I have bought a new rocker cover gasket from Blueprint, so it should be pretty decent. I think it was less than £20, so it's not the most expensive thing to buy ever, and hopefully it sorts our issue out. Now, as well as that, I'm going to be doing a service on the engine as well, so we're going to be changing out the oil, changing the oil filter, and I'm going to be doing 4 spark plugs as well. So yeah, I thought before we start doing all the bodywork stuff to the car, we might as well get it running well mechanically first, because we kind of need that. But before we even get into servicing the car, I want to get that rocker cover off and possibly paint it as well. I think it'll look good. Right, let's get this rocker cover off. It's held on with, I think, 5 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then obviously we've got HT leads and a few hoses and stuff, but that shouldn't be a massive issue. So let's get this off. Oh, I didn't realise the thread was that short. Right, rocker cover off, and check the top of the engine here. It looks pretty neat under there. All looks actually alright. Aye, pretty surprised with that. There's not any sort of scoring or anything. It actually looks pretty tidy under there. Impressed with that. And here is the rocker cover as well, and to be fair, the gasket doesn't look the worst ever, but we've got it there anyway, so we'll change it and hopefully that sorts our oil leak. But since I've got the rocker cover off the car, I might as well paint it to make it look a lot better, so I think we'll do that. So I've now just went ahead and used some brake cleaner to clean the rocker cover on the top and underneath as well. It's looking nice and fresh under there as well. So now we just need to see if I can remove this little pipe over here. Obviously remove the oil cap as well, and then we'll get it sanded down. Right, there we go. I managed to get that wee pipe and rubber out of there. So we've got a completely bare rocker cover now, so that's going to make it so much easier for sanding and painting. For sanding down the rocker cover, I'm just going to be using a 320 grit disc on my sander. get in between the grooves and the lettering on the rocker cover, I'm just using the same sanding discs, but obviously just by hand. And look at the difference with that rocker cover now. So that's all sanded, ready for paint. It actually looks pretty good like this as well. It all looks pretty fresh. But we're going to get it painted now. So as you can see, I have quite a few paint colours there that we could be using, but I think I'm going to go with this. This is Ford Race Red. I had it lying about. There's a wee bit left in that tin there, and I think it'll go really well on the rocker cover, especially since we've got the red air filter as well. I mean, this was on the car when I bought it. It's a bit big, as you can see. It's rubbing off the inside of the bonnet, so I think we might have to switch that out, but for the moment it'll go. I think we really only could go with a red or a black or the exact same blue that's on the body of the car, but I don't have any colour for the body yet, so I can't do it. I'd normally do it the colour of the car though, but we'll leave it and we'll do it red. So I think it'll pop under the engine bay. I mean, blue and red isn't the best colour together, but since we've got the red air filter, and red obviously is the colour of a race car, so if we put that on the rocker cover, it means this car is going to be fast as anything. So, we'll paint it red, and then we'll do a wee bit of something else with the Toyota logo and stuff. Right, and that is the rocker cover all set up on a little trestle. Now I've masked up the side that actually touches where the timing belt is and stuff. I've covered up the wee gaskets that are in here for where the H sealers plug into, covered up the hole for the cap as well. I've covered up this wee vacuum pipe as well, and all these wee holes where the bolts go are all covered up from the inside. So we're ready to go. Now because it is just a rocker cover, I'm literally just going to put some aerosol primer on there and then get on with doing the base coat and lacquer. It's high build aerosol primer as well. It's pretty expensive stuff. It's £18 for a can of it. But it's good stuff, so there it is, Pro XL, £18 for a can of it, which is mental, but we'll get that on there and then we'll get some colour on there. And now it was on with that high build primer. These cans are really good. They have a really wide fan pattern, almost like a spray gun. They're really good stuff, and I only done one coat of this because it's just a rocker cover. Right, rocker cover and primer, and how much better does that look already in one colour? That primer is actually really good, to be fair, and it covers really well as well. That was literally like 1.5 coats, you could call it. So that's all drying out, ready for paint, and I have the colour in the gun. So there it is. We've only got a wee drop there, so hopefully it covers it all, but we'll get that on now. And after giving the rocker cover a little tack off, I can now get on with the first coat of base coat. Now as you can see, I'm not doing the heaviest coat ever here. We're just trying to get a little bit of colour onto there, just so the next coat can stick. I then gave the rocker cover a second and final coat. Right, and that is base coat now complete as well, so we're ready for lacquer. It's all dry, it's looking good so far. And I've got the lacquer in the gun already, so we'll get that on. For the first coat of lacquer, we're pretty much doing the same thing as we've done with the first coat of base coat, just lightly going over it, not giving it the heaviest coat ever. We're not going for a finish on this coat, we're just trying to get something on there. However, for the second coat, we're going for that glossy finish. And there we have it, that is 2 coats of lacquer complete on the rocker cover now as well, and that looks so fresh. It looks unreal. I'm really chuffed with that. It didn't even take long to do it either, and it wasn't like we had to sand it all day or whatever. It was just really simple, which is surprising. Right, it's now the next day and the rocker cover is completely dry. It looks absolutely brilliant, and there's one more thing I want to do to it, which is actually sand down the little lines that are raised and the Toyota lettering that's raised as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have done this after I'd sprayed the base coat, so then I could lacquer over the top of the whole thing, but hindsight is a great thing, so unfortunately we can't do that. But we'll sand it down, get this back to bare metal on these little raised bits, and that should look pretty good. We'll split up the red as well. I think it's a bit much red, so we'll do that. We'll get it back to metal like we done with the Vauxhall Nova rocker cover. So I've now got the rocker cover masked up, and you can basically see where I'm going to be sanding. So it's literally just on these ridges and on the Toyota writing. So I'm going to do this off camera just to save some time, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. There we have it, that is the rocker cover pretty much complete. I still have a couple bits to put back on it, but that looks so fresh. So I've sanded down the raised grooves and the Toyota logo. Now I just done this with an 8 grit disc on my sander and just masked around it obviously. It is really simple to do and it makes such a difference. So that's all ready to go back on. But now we need to get the little Starlet serviced, because what good's a rocker cover when we've still got all of this to do. So let's get all of this and on the car. Right, I've moved the Starlet forward a bit. Now I need to get jacked up so we can get right under it, and then we can find the sump plug and drain what oil's left in it, because there wasn't much on that dipstick, which you would have seen at the start of the video. So I don't know how much oil we're going to get out of it, but we'll drain it as much as possible. So let's get it jacked up. Right, and that is the Starlet jacked up, so we've got the jack under there and a little stand under the middle of the car. And right here is the sump plug. Pretty simple, and I'm glad that it's actually a bolt. I was worried that it was going to be either like a Torx or an Allen or something, but we've got a nut there, so that's going to be easy to drain out. So let me undo that bolt and we'll get whatever oil out of it. You can see that most of the oil from the engine has came down onto the gearbox. So I'm going to try and clean up that gearbox as well today while we're under here, so that it looks all clean again, and then we can check if there's any leaks coming for the engine again. But hopefully it should be this rocker cover gasket. So hopefully this is good. Oh, that's actually alright. I don't know how much is going to come at this point, not much to be fair, but we'll see. Right, well, we've got a bit, at least anyway. There we go. So we'll let that drain out and then we'll get back on with the job. So I drained out whatever was left of the oil in the engine, and then I could put the sump plug back in. Right, that's most of the oil drained out the sump. It's literally just dripping. It's been like this for a wee while. To be fair, there isn't much oil in there, but we'll get this plug back in and then go up there to the oil filter and get that off. But there we go. Thing ever. That'll do. Right, let's see if we can get this oil filter off, because these are usually a nightmare. So. Right, I've got the trusty oil filter remover tool and a wee ratchet, so let's hope that we can get this off here. We'll go in through the front somehow. And then this literally just latches on, you have to hold it in place, and then I'll actually put it in the loosening position. And then hold that on there, and then you feel the tension. Oh, it's just about got it. There we go. Wow, surprising. It actually worked. I thought we were going to be there for ages, putting a screwdriver through the side of the oil filter and that, and taking ages with it, but there we go. I don't think that has ever been changed, or at least not for a while. That's a genuine Toyota oil filter. It's got rust around the edges yet, so that probably needed changed for a while. Wow. New oil filter, we have the Mal, the Holy Grail. So we'll get this on here. It looks to be the same as the old one. It's the same size anyway, so we'll get this on there. That's pretty much all done anyway. So we'll get some oil in there, tiny bit of the old oil, and I'll put it around that rubber seal there. And then hopefully this should go on. And these are just hand tight on the car, so. Yes, it's threading. It's the right one. Wow. What a surprise. And then just tighten that by hand. There we go. So oil filter done, oil drained, sump plug back in, so pretty much get some new oil in there. Right, so for ease of access, while we've got the rocker cover off the car, I think we might as well change the spark plugs, because I've got 4 new Bosch ones here. Bosch. So we'll get them on, and I mean the rocker cover's not there, so we're not going to have any risk of chipping the paint on the rocker cover, and they're all just there, so we'll get these changed out. Removing the spark plugs on the Starlet is pretty straightforward. We've only got 4 cylinders on this engine as well, so it is literally removing 4 and refitting 4 spark plugs. However, the socket used for removing spark plugs is completely different from a normal socket. They're thin walled and they're specifically made for removing spark plugs. I can then take the stand out from under the car and let it back down on all 4 wheels. I can then fit the new rocker cover gasket to the rocker cover. This is getting pretty exciting now because we're nearing the end of this job. Gasket fitted to the rocker cover. Let's get it on there and see what it looks like. Can't wait to see this. I then refitted all the bolts, HT leads and hoses, which was pretty straightforward because it was just a reversal of what we had done at the start of the video. And as you can see, I'm tightening down those 5 rocker cover bolts equally so that nothing's uneven by the end of it. Right, and that is the rocker cover all in place with all bolts, HT leads back on and all the hoses, and that looks amazing. I don't think it's too much red because you've got so much stuff covering it, and we took it back to silver in some areas as well. I think it looks absolutely unreal. Yep, I'm really chuffed with that. It goes just about with the air filter anyway, and it adds a bit of colour to that engine bay just to make it look that bit better. So all we need to do now is fill the engine up with oil. This takes around 3.2 litres, so it's not much. So I've got the finest Halfords 15W40 there, and we'll get that into the little 4EFE engine. Checked the oil a couple of times, so we'll just check it once more from the dipstick. Right, we'll pull that out and check it, and there we go. You can barely see it on the camera to be fair, but that is pretty much bang on with the line. But there you go, you can see that oil is pretty much bang on the line on the dipstick, and it's golden as well, which is a good thing. So there we go, oil complete in the Starlet. I then wanted to start up the car just to make sure it hadn't miraculously died over the time of changing the oil. And everything was good with that, so that was pretty much job done. Right, so I've just run the engine for a little bit there, so we'll go underneath and check for any leaks. And I don't think so, we are completely dry under there. That is just the old oil, as you can see, because it's clearly brownish, blackish. But aye, no leaks under there. And as you can sort of see back there, oil filters there, that's all dry around that area as well. So aye, chuffed with that. Right, and there we have it. That should be the mechanical side of things sorted on the little Toyota Starlet. We've given it a service, we've changed that rocker cover gasket, and we've made the rocker cover a bit prettier as well. So that means that the next step on the car should hopefully be the bodywork. Right, so the first part I want to get started with on this car is this driver's side, since I've got it facing us this way. So I'm going to start on this front wing and work my way back. Now unfortunately I have forgot most of my tools, so I'm not going to be able to strip as much of the car apart as I wanted to, but we'll get the rest of that done as we go on when I remember tools next time, because I'd like to get the bumpers off, door handles out, mirrors off, stuff, just bits off it, but aye, we'll get on with what we can right now, so let's get on with it. Before doing any sanding, I needed to get the stuff on the wing stripped down, so it was off with the indicator first and then off with that little S badge as well. We'll need to keep that because that is a vital part of this car. Right, so now we've got the wing indicator and the little S badge off, I can get on with sanding this, and this is what I'm going to be sanding out first. A deckham Watts went on here, but you can see it's all been chipped off round this lip, and we have a wee bit of bubbling down this bottom part of the wing, so I'm going to take this all back to an 80 round this lip and down the bottom, so we'll get on with that. And that is what I've done next. I got an 80 grit disc onto my sander and buffed that lip down. There was some really weird damage to this wing. As you can see, I'm buffing another part down to bare metal where there was a dent, and I actually found another couple of dents on the wing too, so I don't know what's happened to this in the past. Right, and that is the damage sanded on the front wing on the driver's side. So I've sanded this area down here, which had a dent. I've also sanded this area that had a dent, and we've sanded down that lip where those chipped parts were. I've also sanded down this bottom sort of end bit, and it's actually pretty clean metal down there, so if I move up close you can see it's not too bad. It just needs the right protection put on it, so I will put a wee bit of rust converter on there just as it was bubbling underneath. I'll put a bit of rust converter on, leave it to sit, and then we can get on with the primer and whatever after that. But for now I'm going to skip past the door because it looks really straight. Like if you look down the side of it, it looks pretty mint. Like I can't see a dent along there anyway. So we're going to skim past the door just now because it literally has chips on the door edge where it's been banged off of a wall or something, and we'll get on with this quarter because this is the next concerning part. what's under the primer. Hopefully nothing, hopefully just nice metal, but we'll see. So yeah, apart from the big skimmy filler on the passenger side quarter of the car, this was my biggest concern. I really just wanted to see some bare metal that I could work off of and have relatively no issues. Right now I'm using some paint thinners on a rag to try and wipe off most of that primer and paint that was on there, because when I was trying to sand it, it was just clogging up the disc and it was causing an absolute nightmare. Once I'd done that though, I could get in there with the 8 to grit sanding disc and buff that right back to bare metal. Once I'd buffed down the rear quarter, I could then get onto that previous repair that had been done on the pillar as well, buff all of the filler out of that, and get that back to bare metal too. Right, and that is all the damaged areas sanded out on the driver's side so far. And once you actually sand it down and get stuck in with it, it doesn't seem as bad as it did when you first were going to do it. So we have to do a little fill up here, a wee repair. It was filled before, but we'll do it again. So it's literally just these 2 dots there. We have another one down at this arch, which I was really surprised with. I'm chuffed with this. Just nice bare metal and it's really clean. There is 2 wee dents just there, so we'll put a wee tiny skim on them. To be fair, you can barely feel them. And then if we come down to the wing, the parts I showed you before. Just these bits here. These are slightly bigger, but again, nothing major. So we'll put a wee bit of filler on them. And it was on with the filler. This is just some U-pull stuff that I keep in the unit. It's really good and it's easy to use. And there we have it. That is the repairs complete on this driver's side. Hopefully anyway, unless we sand the door down and notice something else. But we've done the wing up here. Fresh there, and we had to do a wee bit more on this part on the wing because it was pretty bad. It didn't look too bad, but it was a bit wonky. I've also done the bit up on the pillar, redone that took a couple of skims as well. And then this little piece here, and this little piece here on the quarter. So those are all fresh now. So what I can do is feather out all those repairs now with like 180, 320, and then 500, and then 800, the parts that we don't need to put base coat on, and we just want to lacquer out. So aye, let's get on with that. So that'll be the whole side getting sanded down. Might take a while, but needs to be done. So feathering out the paint edge of the repair is pretty straightforward. Now we've been using an 80 grit disc on those repairs, which is a pretty coarse bit of sandpaper. So using an 80 grit sort of gives you a little lip between each layer of material that's on the body of the car. So you can imagine at least primer, at least some base coat, and at least some sort of lacquer. If that's just all sitting on top of each other really closely, you're going to feel an edge on that. And you don't want to just prime and paint right over the top of that because you'll see it through both layers. So that's why I'm using a 180, 320 and 500, just working it out with each different grade of sandpaper. That'll leave us with a nice transition between each layer of the material on the car. Once I'd sanded down every panel on the driver's side of the car, I could now go around all the edges with a red Scotch-Brite pad. This just gives all the edges a nice light scuff so that the paint sticks to it. Right, and there we have it. That is one full side sanded down on the Starlet. I've parked it back up in the corner as well, and I don't think I could have got it any closer to the wall. Look at this. That is pretty tight down there. Could have got it maybe the wee tiny smidge over a bit more, but that's perfect. At least it keeps it out of the way when I'm not working on it, and we're as far back as possible as well. But in terms of the side that was sanded down, it's looking pretty good. Repairs are complete. Obviously, still need to get like the door handles off, the handle, the lockout, remove the bumpers and stuff as well so I can get right in there, and obviously remove all of this old glue from the bump strips on the wing and the door. But apart from that, this side's ready for primer and whatever else we're doing to it. But aye, I'm pretty chuffed with that so far. So now I'm going to go and get the right tools so I can strip down the rest of the stuff that we need to get off the car, and then we'll sand down the rest of the stuff that we're painting. So let's do that. It's now a new day. I've spun the Starlet around in the unit, and I did bring some tools with me now as well, so I can get the bumpers stripped off it and get whatever else stripped off it that we can as well. The bump strips are going to be a bit of a nightmare because I forgot a rubber wheel to take all the glue off it that way, so we're still waiting for that. But apart from that, we can get pretty much everything else off of the car, and it just makes it a bit easier for sanding it down. And once we do have it stripped down, we can sand down this passenger side, which is the bad side with the filler. So let's see how we get on with that. So it was almost stripping the majority of the car down, and this is one of the many reasons why I love older cars. This bumper was so easy to take off. It was literally something like 6 bolts or something to take this off and a couple of clips. So simple. And it was the same with removing the back bumper as well, and it was made even easier with this because there was a couple of the clips missing. I then removed the bump strips that were running down the passenger side of the car, and I didn't even bother using a heat gun on these because they weren't going back on the car anyway because they were missing from the other side. I then removed the wing mirror off the passenger side of the car as well, and I also stripped the door card down to try and remove that door handle, but it was proving a bit tricky, so we'll maybe get that later on. Right, and that is pretty much everything removed on the passenger side. Now, unfortunately, as I'd said, I don't have the little rubber wheel to take all the glue off yet, but the lock's pushed out. You might notice the handle's still in, and that is because the bolt to take the handle out, there's one just through this hole here, and then the other one, you can barely see it, is tucked back there behind another piece of metal that's in there. So the only really way you can get to it is with a spanner maybe, and I don't think I have a 10mm, so yeah, handles are staying on at the minute, but everything else is off, the mirror as well, so ideal. And there we go, crisis averted. I did manage to get the door handle off with a lot of faff. I don't know how I'm going to manage to get that back on. It was such a tight sort of like wee metal bar to get that off of. Yeah, it was a faff. And then obviously that second bolt you had to get off with a spanner as well, which I managed to find, but just a bit of a nightmare. But apart from that, it has genuinely been so easy to take apart. But now that the car is all stripped down, I can get the sander out and start sanding down the full passenger side. I'm going to start on the wing and work my way back to that dodgy quarter. So let's get on with it. So it was now on to sanding down that front wing, and this really wasn't bad at all. It had that scuff at the front there, which I've already sanded out using a 500 grit bit of sandpaper. I'm trying to get as much as I can with the 500, and then I can go round that lip and get that back to bare metal for the slight bit of bubbling that it had. I then buffed down the passenger side door again with a 500 grit disc. There wasn't any damage to this, so I'm just giving it a light scuff down so that I can just chuck maybe 1 or 2 coats of base coat over this when it comes to painting the car. Once I'd sanded down the passenger side door, it was now time to buff all the filler out of the rear quarter on the car, and this was a big concern. This was a big gamble when it came to buying this car. I didn't know what was underneath it, and I was just hoping for the best, hoping for some nice bare metal and not too much damage underneath it. So let's see what happens. And so far, so good. I can see some damage there, but underneath that, there's some good bare metal. And I must say, I'm glad I was wearing my mask right now because that dust was mental. We're almost there though. Right, and that is all of that filler sanded out of the quarter. What an absolute nightmare that was. I think I was sanding that for about 20 minutes and that's it just off. That took a load of 8 to get this to get off, and look at the amount that's on the floor, and you can imagine already what's inside the hoover that actually made it into there. But that is it off, so we're looking a lot better already, and to be fair, it's not as bad as I was originally thinking. If you come side on, you can see that it's got a wee bit of a dent, sorry, in this area it does go in, and then on the lip as well, it's just a wee bit bent in. But we'll get that all sorted. We definitely don't need as much filler as that, and I'm glad it's back to bare metal and it's not too bad. Right, so I've got some filler mixed up and I'm going to get a first skim on this quarter and just try and cover the worst areas first, and then we can build it up and work our way down. It's not going to be pretty, but it needs to be done. And there we have it, that is the first skim of filler onto the rear quarter, and yes, it's not the prettiest thing ever, but for a first skim, it's about as good as it's going to get. It's such an awkward shape down the bottom there as well, that it's never going to be pretty until we get to the sort of last skims, but it's looking a little better. I also done the wee ding on the wing as well, so the ding on the wing, good ring that. But aye, there we go. Alright, and there we have it. That is the quarter all filled and repaired. I'm pretty much there. I've got a wee bit of easy stock filler mixed up on the board here, just to get any wee sort of pinholes and bits. It's a lot more of a thinner filler than what's on here for the main part of the repair. So I'm going to get these wee bits and then tidy up this wee edge round here, and then that should be the quarter pretty much ready to go for primer. And obviously I just need to rub the rest of the area, but decent, I'm chuffed with that. So it was on with the easy stock filler just to get those pinholes away on the quarter, and I also done a little one on the wing too. So while the easy stop's drying on the repairs on this passenger side, I'm going to get on with sanding the bonnet. It needs to be done, it's inevitable, it has to be done. I mean, I was hoping to leave it, but there's dings everywhere. There's a couple of dents as well. You can see that one up there just when it hits the light, and there's another one somewhere as well. So I've removed the washer jets. I just need to remove the badge, and then we can sand this, and then at least it can get a fresh coat of paint anyway. But aye, you can see that main dent there. So we'll sort this. So it was on with removing the badge first. This was really simple. It was just literally stuck on with some double-sided tape. And after that was done, I could sand down the dented area on the bonnet, so I could repair that first before sanding the rest of the bonnet. I gave that a little fill too, and while that was drying, I could sand down the rest of the panel now as well. So now that the repair on the quarter is looking pretty good and I'm pretty chuffed with it, I want to get onto something else that's been weighing pretty heavy on my shoulders with this car, and that is the dent on the sill. Now as you can see, that has been squished up pretty badly, and I've already sanded it down, but I want to try and pull it out a bit. However, I don't have a medical dent puller or any sort of welding equipment to weld something onto there, and even getting a sliding hammer on it to pull it out. But what I do have is a little hot glue dent removal kit, which I've used on loads of other stuff before, and it's worked pretty well. Now, I don't know how it's going to work on this sill, but we're going to give it a try, and even if I can pull it out a bit and then just repair the rest, then I'll be pretty chuffed with that. So I bought 12 glue sticks, and I'm probably going to use them all, and we'll just try and see what we can do. So here is the little dent pulling tool, and it is very simple. You put your little tab onto there with the hot glue, let it dry, and then you pull it back with that, and you can also wind it in with this little windy bit here. And here's all the tabs as well. We've got multiple tabs, and we've got multiple glue sticks as well, and a hot glue gun. So it's worth giving it a bash, so let's try it. So it was on first by getting some hot glue onto the tab, and then sticking that on to the sill of the car. I can then mount the actual dent puller onto the tab, tighten that up as much as possible, and then when it gets really tight, I can start pulling it with the handle until it falls off. And yes, this is a pretty painstaking process, but it was working, so I just kept repeating it over and over. Right, and after a long time spent trying to pull the dent out of this sill, I think I've got it as good as I can get it. I mean, look at the amount of glue that I've used. There's loads there. But this is how it's looking. I'm genuinely pretty pleased with that. Obviously, we still have this quite sharp dent here, but in terms of the actual flat part along the bottom, that is pulled out a lot better than it was before. Obviously, this piece will be so tight now that it would never come out with just glue. You'd really have to weld it and pull it out. But I'm pretty chuffed with that, so we can chuck a wee repair on that part of the sill, and it should tidy it up quite a bit. Obviously it's never going to be perfect, but it'll be a lot better than it was before. So after getting some filler onto the sill there, I could sand it down using some 8 grit once again, and just try and get it into a better shape than it was before. So we're pretty much there or thereabouts, ready for primer with the shell of the car. However, that's not all that we need to sand. We need to sand the bumpers on the car as well. So I've got the back bumper set up on my little trestle here, and I'm going to sand it down for primer, but we're not just going to be doing that with it. Now on both back and front bumpers, you have these little fake bump strips on the corners of the bumpers. Now I don't think they look great, they look a bit granny car-ish, this would have been one, but I want to make them look a bit cooler. So I'm going to sand this all down, because this is slightly raised above the rest of the bumper, so I want to sand this all down and smooth that off with some filler. And as you can see on this side, I've already done the sanding down part, so we just need to fill that. And I'm going to do the same with the front bumper, but we're going to be doing something extra with that as well. With the corners of the bumpers that I was wanting to smooth off, I was sanding these down with an 80 grit disc on the sander. Now this is pretty aggressive and I normally wouldn't use this on plastic because it really does tear it right down. But that's what we're trying to achieve with this. So we're trying to get that high spot as low as possible so that we can just fill right over the top of it and act like it was never there. I then got some filler onto the bumper. This is quite an awkward shape to try and mould the filler to, but we got there in the end and it will end up pretty cool. So I've sanded down that first skimmy filler that I'd put on the bumper, and I've now just put on a skim of Easy Stop, which is a lot thinner of a filler, and it's a lot more flexible. So I've put that on there, and hopefully that should be it good once this is sanded down. And once I got that second skimmy filler sanded down, that was pretty much all the imperfections out of that bumper, and it was looking and feeling pretty cool. But now we need to get on with something rubbish. Right, now that I have most of the car sanded down, ready for epoxy and high build primer, I need to deal with the inevitable. And that is, of course, the boot lid on the car. I've been dancing around it ever since I started working on this car, but I need to do something with it. Now, I've looked everywhere for boot lids for this car, and there only seems to be boot lids down south. And I'm not going all the way down south just for a boot lid for this car, that I'm then going to have to paint the inside off, paint the outside area, and then fit all of the stuff back to it again. So I'm going to keep this boot lid, and you might be thinking, how are you going to do that? There's a massive gaping hole in the boot lid. And what we're going to be doing with the boot lid is something that I've been thinking about, and my dad said a couple of times as well, is just cutting the boot lid. We're going to cut a square right around this damaged area and put a nice bit of sheet metal in there and just smooth this part of the boot off. Now we're going to be losing the keyhole function, but we don't have it anyway, and on the interior of the car you can pop the boot from in there anyway. So if you've got the key to the car, you're going to be able to get to the inside and pop the boot from in there anyway. It's not going to make any odds whatsoever, and while we're there I think I might get a little circle piece of metal put in here as well to get rid of this window wiper, because that does not look great. So if we can do all that, we'll have a pretty smooth boot, and I think it'll look really clean, and it's something different as well instead of having the keyhole there. So yeah, obviously not ideal. I would love to have found a boot in the same colour as this with the keyhole and just have it how it was at the factory, but we're going to make the best of what we've got here. We're going to cut it out, put a new bit of metal in, repair it, prime it and paint it, and have a smooth boot lid. So I have the DeWalt grinder here, and I'm going to get to cutting, so let's do this. So I've just made a little mark with a pen here, roughly where I want to cut around the boot lid. It's not the most visible line ever, but basically just a big rectangle just to get this area out of the boot, and then we'll obviously get some cardboard in there, draw around that, make it into metal, and then get it in there. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. Right, here goes nothing. This is one way to look like a thief. It was now on with cutting out that rectangle in the boot lid, and no matter how many times I cut metal out of a car, it will still always feel wrong, especially on this part. It's not even rusty. There we go, that's it cut out. So there we go, an even bigger hole cut into the boot lid, obviously bigger than this one, but not the straightest rectangle I've ever cut before, but it'll do the job. It's going to get new metal put in there anyway, and once it's all repaired, primed and painted, it should look absolutely minted. Now that I was committed to keeping the original boot lid for the car, I could strip down all the parts off of it and just get it down as bare as possible. After stripping off everything that I could from the outside of the boot, I could then go into the car and strip off stuff like the window wiper motor and other parts like that. So for the most part that is the boot lid stripped down. We only have a wee couple of things left, like the washer jet up there and the Starlet and Toyota stickers down the bottom. And I've just looked up how much one of these are for if I wanted to put it back on once the car's painted, and it is £30 plus postage alone just for the Starlet sticker. That's not the Toyota sticker as well. So I don't know if we'll be putting these back on once it's done. We'll see what it looks like, but £30 for a tiny sticker like that is mental. So I'm going to have to take them off anyway. So let's remove these. We'll remove the tape and that as well, and then I'll get back to these. After removing the two boot stickers, I can now slide a piece of cardboard in behind the hole that we had cut in the boot, just so that I can mark up a little template of what we want to cut into some metal and then weld into that hole. After cutting the cardboard template out, it was fitting up to the boot pretty nicely, so all I need to do is replicate that a bit bigger onto some metal, and we can get on with that once we epoxy prime the car. Right, so now that I've cut the hole in the boot of the Starlet, I kinda just need to wait on that getting welded. But while I'm waiting on that, I've pretty much got the whole rest of the shell ready for primer now. Obviously I've still not done the front bumper and like wing mirrors and handles and stuff, but I can get on with doing pretty much the shell of the car. And before we even think about putting high build primer on the Starlet, we're going to be putting on this. And what this is epoxy primer. It's really good for covering bare metal and repairs. It's non-porous and it just puts a nice barrier between what you've had on it before and what's going on it now. So yeah, we're going to be putting some epoxy primer on the car first, because we have quite a lot of bare metal, especially on these back arches. So we've got the driver's side one there that's bare metal, and then we have the passenger side as well that has the big repair and some bare metal too. I'll obviously be doing bits like the lip to this wing and the wing on the other side as well, because I've rubbed the lip away here and I've also rubbed it to bare metal down the bottom too. So yeah, before we can spray any epoxy primer, we need to get this thing masked up. So let's do that. For getting the car into epoxy primer, I thought the best idea would be to get 3 wheels off the car so that I could get right into those arches. Obviously we don't need to get the other front wheel off because we weren't down the bottom of the wing on that one. With the wheels off too and the car a bit higher, it makes it so much easier to mask as well, because masking takes a long time, and especially when you're getting to these bigger stages where you actually need to mask off quite a lot of the car. With the wheels off too and the car a bit higher, it makes it so much easier to mask as well, because masking takes a long time, and especially when you're getting to these bigger stages where you actually need to mask off quite a lot of the car. Once I'd masked off all of the sections that I wanted to get epoxy primer on, I could then chuck a sheet over the car and protect the areas that we didn't want to get epoxy primer on. And that is the Starlet all masked up, all sheeted up, ready for epoxy primer. Now you can see I've got a few sections masked up. So we've got the front wing, obviously got all this bare metal in repair, and then I've actually masked it into the inner wing as well, just to get a bit of primer back there. Obviously, and I've got it going down to the bottom of the wing. We have the quarter as well, that's all bare metal around there, and a part at the bottom of the sill. Had a wee repair on the bonnet as well. I might as well chuck some epoxy primer on that, just because it's a big bit that you see. Wee tiny bit on this front wing, just round the lip. This is all good, but might as well get it on there. And then obviously the big repair on the passenger side rear quarter. So yeah, we're going to get as much of it on there as we can, but let's get it mixed up. Today I'll be mixing up this epoxy primer at a ratio of 1:1, so that's 1 part epoxy primer and 1 part hardener. After pouring in the primer, I can now get some hardener into there, and I actually did add a dash of thinners as well, just to make it that bit thinner. I could then mix both parts up, get it into the gun, and then spray it onto the car. So with the first coat of the epoxy primer on the car, we're just going lightly because we don't need to get it super heavy yet. We're just trying to build it up so we can have something to stick to on the second coat. And I was pretty happy to be getting some epoxy primer onto this rear quarter because this had the big repair on it, and I was so sick of seeing it with the catty on it. So it was good seeing it all in one colour pretty much. And after doing a couple more coats of the epoxy primer, this is how the car was looking. And yes, it might still look absolutely soaking, but no, this is how epoxy dries. It dries shiny, so it actually shows you the repairs pretty well. I'm so happy to see the car at this stage. It feels like this project's finally getting somewhere. So now all I need to do is take all of that masking off and get the car back on the floor. Right, so that is the epoxy complete on the Starlet, but it's still inevitable that we need to weld the boot. And you might have noticed throughout the video that we have a massive hole on the back panel as well, which I discovered when I took the back bumper off. And there's only really one person that we could get in to do it, and that's Jude.
Can you use this opportunity to flash back to the bit where you said it's not rusty, and I was like, yeah, that's great.
Sure, and you'd have to weld it.
That means it's 10. I love it.
It's a 10 now.
Keep buying more cars like this. Keep buying more cars like this. Keep buying more cars like this.
It would never be a project without there being rust. We also have Yam. So we're going to get on, well, Jude's going to get on with welding this. We've made up the pieces of metal.
We have this piece to blank the boot lock. We have this piece to blank the wiper.
Yeah, so it's going to
So we're doing the customisation bits before we actually fix the car.
yeah, do the easy bits first and then do the actual rust. Fun. So Jude was straight in there tacking up the little blank that he had made for the window wiper. That was a no-look nasty penalty there. Once he had it tacked into place, he could now fill up the rest of the gaps. And with the wiper blade hole all welded up, he could now get onto the rectangular piece. Right, well that is the boot lid welded thanks to Jude. He's now cracking on with a hole in the back panel. But yeah, that means I can repair the boot, which is more important.
Oh man.
But aye, pretty cool. This is going to look good once it's all done, primed and painted, but yeah, need to repair it now. So while Jude was welding the new piece into the back panel, I could focus on doing the repair on the boot lid, and I wasn't wasting any time, I was straight in there. And here was the new piece on the back panel as well. Obviously it's not shaped in anything, it's just a flat piece of metal, but this doesn't need to look pretty, it's going to be behind the bumper. Right, and it's now the next day, the epoxy primer is completely dry, ready to be sanded down, and so is the filler on the boot. So I'm going to get these both sanded down, and then that'll be the car ready for high build primer. So let's do that. I can now start sanding down that epoxy primer. A lot of the time people just leave the epoxy primer and barely give it a scuff, but we're sanding this down with 320 grit, and then we'll be going over it with the high build primer anyway. Right, and now that we've got the epoxy primer sanded down, I've just spent quite a lot of time masking up the car, getting it ready for high build primer. Now you might notice I've done a couple of rub throughs on the epoxy, and that was mainly on this wing here. I wasn't happy with the repair. I went back and went over it again, and we'll just get this with high build primer. It's fine. We covered the main areas with the epoxy primer, which was the worst bare metal part. So as you can see, the quarter's still fine on there, on the driver's side. Boot's all masked up, ready for primer as well, and then obviously the full passenger side as well. So let's get some high build primer onto the Starlet. Now it was on with the high build primer. This was so much fun to do. This is a step even closer to painting the car. And there we have it, that is the Starlet in high build primer. It looks so good, it looks even better than it did before in the epoxy primer. Now you've seen me putting on the first coat there, but off camera I put on a good few more coats after that, just so I could build it right up, so I can sand it down. If there's any sort of bits of the repairs that I still need to muck about with, I've got plenty of primer on there, especially on the boot. But it's just coming together now. The car's looking so much better. Now in the last video on the car, you would have seen me working on the back bumper, so we smoothed off those bump strips and sanded it all down. But we need to do something with that front bumper. So in the last video on the Starlet, you would have seen me sanding down and prepping the back bumper. Now that's pretty much all ready for primer. We smoothed off those bump strip bits and repaired any other bits. Now there's still one wee bit to fill on that, but it's pretty much ready for primer. So the main focus in this video is the front bumper. So here is the front bumper for the Starlet, and yes, it is pretty boring, and this one in particular is pretty battered too. I mean, we've got dents here somehow, both bumper corners are absolutely battered on it. It's obviously been bounced off of some walls over the years, and it's just overall a pretty boring bumper. So today, I want to try something new. I'm actually going to start cutting up this front bumper essentially. So what I want to do is take out this front grille on the bottom here, so this lower piece completely out, obviously leave the little surround for the number plate, and then cut out the top front grille as well. Both pieces, cut all the little slats away and just leave it clear. Now you might think that's pretty stupid because stones are going to get in here and just smash the radiator, but we're not going to leave it open. We're going to mesh it from behind and maybe mesh the top part as well too. When we get to that stage we'll figure it out, but I think it'll look really cool, and we just have to trust the process on this one. Now I can't take the credit for this idea. I actually seen this on a guy named Lewis's TikTok where he'd done the exact same thing on a little silver Starlet and it looked really cool. So that's where I got the idea from, but I want to try it myself. So it's something that I've never tried before. I'm going to give it my best shot and we'll see how we get on. But we're going to be missing parts of plastic, having to graft pieces in with fiberglass and what have you, and it's just going to be something new to try. So let's get into this. Now before I'd done any chopping of the front bumper, I thought I'd mark out where I wanted to cut first. Now I didn't actually need these because I knew where I was cutting and it didn't have to be the tidiest thing ever, but I thought I'd do it anyway just in case. So we're cutting round the grills and then a wee bit further out just so we lose that end part as well. Right, here we go, got the grinder out again for some reason. I maybe would have been better with a wee multi-tool or something, but this is what I've got with me, so we're going to give it a best shot. I really hope this goes well because I don't want to be buying another front bumper, so we'll see how this goes. So it's time to cut that front bumper, and I actually underestimated how hard it would be to fit the grinder into the parts where I need to cut the grille. So I'm going to be flipping it back and forward just to try and get these bits cut out, but let's do it. So once I was actually cutting the grills out of the front bumper, it was a lot more straightforward. I was still really stressed out though because obviously I've never tried it before. But basically I'm cutting all the slats out, then cutting around where the number plate sits, and then obviously that bit at the end of the grill too. Once I thought those two halves of the grills were becoming pretty loose, I could then give them a good dunt and then just rip them right out. I then done the same thing with the top grille, cut the two end pieces out, then cut all the little slats out, and there was no grille left, so we were done. And there we have it, that is the bumper all chopped up. This is going to be one of the biggest trusted processes we've had on the channel. I mean, that looks like such a mess right now, but we're going to tidy it up and we're going to make it look cool. It just looks rather rubbish right now. So yeah, as you can see, it's going to need a lot of work. I mean, those were just rough cuts to get the plastic out of there. We're going to get the sander and tidy all these areas up. But as you can see, some areas I went a bit heavy with the grinder there, and I'm going to have to put some new stuff in behind there first. But it is what it is. It's cool. It's going to be smart when it's all done. And yeah, we're just going to have to do a lot of tidying up. Obviously, there was no way to stop this, but we're just going to have to build it in from behind with some fiberglass and stuff. And make it look cool again. But I actually can start to see the vision, to be fair. Once you stop looking at the cut parts, you can see it's going to look pretty cool. So I can now sand down the areas that I'd cut with the grinder. I'm using an 8 to get here, which is pretty aggressive, but we really do need to tidy up those edges as much as possible because we're going to be doing a lot of work to them. Using the 8 to grit on the sander will also help me sand down those areas that are slightly raised because I didn't cut them enough with the grinder. I could also sand down the parts on the back of the bumper that we needed to fiberglass so that the resin has something to stick to. And there we go, that's the cut areas tidied up a bit more with the sander there. So it's actually starting to look a lot better already. Obviously we still have some deep gouges for where I went with the grinder, but most of it actually sanded down. Obviously there was like tabs there, and they've sanded it really nicely. There we go, the initial sand of the bumper is complete, and I think it's looking a lot better anyway. Now, we obviously still have loads of damage all over the bumper, especially big bits like this, and obviously some filler, so that's all going to have to come out, because you can see that is all cracked. But before we worry about sanding the rest of the bumper, we need to get some fiberglass in behind these bits here, and also the bit round here behind the number plate. Obviously, you'll never see this bit, but I'll make it a bit better if it's fiberglass too. So we can build up for the back with the fiberglass and then come to the front and then do a fill over that and then fill the rest of the bits. But fiberglass first. So let's do that. So here is the fiberglass that we're going to be using, and more specifically this is fiberglass sheeting, and all it is wee tiny bits of glass that are woven together and then put in a plastic resin to make this sheet. So we can cut this into shape now for the bumper and then mix it with some resin and get it stuck on. And for cutting it here, I am not going for a beautiful shape, I'm just trying to cut it roughly so that we can put it on behind. It doesn't have to look pretty. So I've cut out 2 big squares to go behind where the bottom grill was, and then I've cut out 3 little squares to go behind the top grill was and the part that I cut out where the number plate sits as well. Now that I've got the pieces cut out, I can mix up the resin, and all this is pretty much the hardener. We're going to brush this onto the fiberglass sheets and it'll make it as strong as a brick house. Once the resin's into the cup, I can then put the U-Pol hardener into there, and this is the exact same hardener that we use for the filler on the car, so it's all pretty relative. I can now line up the sheet roughly to where I want it on the bumper, and you can see it's pretty much perfect. So I can start by putting a little bit of that fiberglass resin down, just so that sheet will stick first, and then we can go over the back of the sheet with the resin. I can then line the sheet back up and then just cover it in that fiberglass resin. I can then do the same on the other side, put the resin down, put the sheet down, and then cover it in resin again. And then the same went for those parts where the top grill was as well, but this was a bit more tricky because it was such a tight area to work in. Right, and there we have it. That is the fiberglass parts complete on the front bumper. So we have the 2 main areas where obviously most of the grill was. I also have the little piece where the number plate fits and where the top grill goes as well. Obviously there was no way to cut that without going through the plastic. They just came off like that. That's how the tabs came off. So we're fiberglassed from the back as well. So I pretty much need to leave that to dry and then we can start repairing those bits. But for now I'm going to try and sand down the damage to these corners. So I can now sand the rest of the damage out of the bumper, and for some reason on this bumper corner it was fully filled out at the bottom area. I don't know why there was no damage there, so I just sanded it all out and we were back to a nice clean slate of plastic. I could also sand down that little fake bump strip as well, so that's as flat as possible because we'll be filling those. And there we have it, that's most of the damage sanded out, and the fiberglass is pretty solid now too. So I sanded down the little bump strips because we'll be smoothing them off like we done with the back bumper, and then I can get the first sort of fills in on the fiberglass areas too to get them all repaired and smoothed off as well. So let's get some filler on there. Now for trying to fill in the areas where we had fiberglassed, I knew this was going to take more than one skim, so with this first skim I'm just trying to get it in the gap as much as possible. It's not going to look pretty, but it's going to help us get there quicker. So yeah, there is no real technique to this, I'm just trying to get it in there as much as possible. So I can do the lower grill part first and then move up to the top grill too. I then filled in both bump strip areas too so that they could be all smoothed off, and we were pretty much there with the first skim. Right, and that is the first couple of skims completed on the front bumper, and that is looking good. We're definitely getting somewhere. So obviously I've smoothed off the bump strips too, and then I've started repairing all the bits that we had cut out with the grinder, but aye, definitely getting there. That is looking so good. I'm going to fit it up to the car and see what we're looking like so far. So yeah, I just wanted to roughly fit up the bumper to the car just to get an idea of what it's going to look like once it's done, and I was very chuffed with it. And then we have the bumper roughly fitted up to the car, and that is going to look so cool. I can see it now. That's going to look smart as anything, especially once we've got it painted and we've got the mesh in behind there. Yeah, that's definitely cool. I like that. I then took the bumper back off the car, and now I can put a different kind of filler over those repairs. So this is easy stop, this is just a sort of final filler before we can get it into primer. This stuff takes a little bit longer to dry, but it'll be worth it for the end result. Right, it's now a new day at the unit, we're working on the bumpers once again, and we've only got a couple more things to do before we can get them into primer. There's a wee Starlet out in the background there, but all we have to do really is sand down this last skim of easy stop filler, go over all the edges, and then they're ready for primer and we can get them primed, which is very exciting because that's when we'll properly see the bumper take shape, and obviously all the filled parts, we'll see what they're looking like, see if we need to do anything, and sort of get an idea of what it's going to look like when they're on the car. So yeah, we'll get these bits of easy stop sanded down and then we can get them primed. Right here I'm sanding down the filler using a 180 grit disc on the sander. Now I'm trying to get it as smooth as possible and just get it all done. However, with the shape of where the lower grille used to be on the bumper, I'm having to sand a lot of it by hand. Alright, and that's the last skim of filler sanded down on the bumpers, and they are looking absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that yellow filler there is the easy stop stuff. That's all sanded down and sitting where it wants to be, just to fill in those last tiny wee blemishes in the bodywork there. But they are looking really good. I'm really chuffed with this, especially the front bumper obviously. On the back bumper, we only really had to smooth off the little bump bits, and my dad actually done a nice job with the angle grinder of cutting this to more of a circle because it was a bit squint before, and then I just had to fill in a little couple dings and stuff, but aye, we are there. So I'm going to get these inside the unit and we can get them primed. I dragged the stand back into the unit and now we can get that primer mixed up. So for making the primer today, we are going to be mixing it at a ratio of 4:1, so you can see the little ratios going up there on the side of the cup, and now we can get that primer into there. So I can now get the first part of the mix into the cup, which is the primer, and unfortunately you can't see me pouring it in there because I've got my big head in the way. I can then put the hardener in as well. This is fast hardener, so it should go off a bit quicker, and then I added a splash of thinners as well, and then we can stir that all together. And now we can get the first coat of primer down onto the bumpers, and you can see here I'm not going too heavy, I'm literally just going over it quickly just to get a bit of primer on there for the second coat to stick. And I also put a bit of primer on the fiberglass parts on the back of the bumper too, just so there's a bit of primer on them. I'm now putting on that second coat of primer onto the bumpers, and you can see just how much heavier I'm putting it on this time. I mean, the bumpers are literally shining. I then put on a fourth coat of primer. And there we have it, that is the bumpers primed for the Starlet. They look absolutely unreal. Obviously the back bumper smoothed off those bump strips and fixed the hole for the exhaust tip. It's looking so much better. Obviously still a bit hairy, but these are going to get sanded down anyway. But good few coats on the back bumper, but with the front bumper I chucked on a lot of coats. Obviously we'd done quite a lot of repair work to this and sanded it down with 8 to get and stuff, so it needed a lot of primer on there. But now that it's all one colour, it's starting to come together. I'm really chuffed with that. That's going to look so cool in the car. So I just need to leave the bumpers to fully cure and then we can get them sanded down and ready for paint, obviously. So it's now been a couple of days since we primed the front and back bumper for the Toyota Starlet. Now the primer is completely dry, so what I want to get done in this video is sand the primer down so that it's ready for paint. Now we're not going to be painting them in this video because it's pretty pointless for me, because I've still not painted the shell of the car yet, and there's no point having the bumpers painted and then them just sitting about potentially getting damaged, because I don't have much places to store panels in here. As you can see, I've already got 2 other bumpers in here. So we'll get the bumpers sanded down in this video so they're at least ready for the paint when it comes. So for sanding down the primer, I want to be using a 320 grit disc on the sander. Now up close you can see that we're just trying to take away that orange peel finish from the primer and just make it nice and flat so that the base coat lays nice and flat as well. Now I just need to sand down the complete rest of the bumper with that 320 grit disc. However, there is some areas that we won't be able to get to with the disc that we need to sand by hand, which is a bit annoying, but it needs to be done. After sanding down all the edges and tight areas by hand, I can now get a 500 grit disc on the sander and go over the complete bumper again. Now if we were painting this bumper silver, we'd maybe want to go over it with an 800 grit disc after the 500. This is because you might still see the scratch marks through the silver paint, but because we're painting it blue, we should be okay. However, I will still be using some 1500 grit wet and dry sandpaper on the bumpers because of the type of base coat we're using. It usually lets the base coat sit a bit flatter on the body. We're now sanding down the front bumper though, and it is just the exact same process again. Over it with 320, sand it by hand with 320, then sand all the edges by hand with 500, and then go over the complete bumper with 500 as well. So yeah, bit of a nightmare, but it needs to be done. And there we have it, that is the primer on both front and back bumpers sanded down. They're looking amazing, and that's them ready for paint. But before I end this video, there's one more thing I want to do, and it's something I ordered while I've been working on the bumpers, and that is some mesh. So obviously I told you this from the start, we needed to put this behind the front bumper, behind that bottom grille and behind the top grille. So I ordered this decent bit of black metal mesh, and we're going to cut it to like a relative size, and then we can make it so it's a sort of mould of what we need on the bumper. I'm probably not going to fit it in this video because I might as well paint the bumpers first and then fit the mesh, but we can try and get it cut out and see what it's going to look like. So I flipped the front bumper over on the stand, and then I tried to roughly line up where the mesh was going to go to see how much material I had, and luckily there was enough. I then needed to cut the mesh so that we could start shaping it roughly, and I wanted to do the bottom grille first, so that's what I was doing, and luckily I could cut through it with scissors, so this was ideal. And yeah, for some reason I decided to cut it on the bumper, which made it an absolute nightmare, but it made sense in my head. Once I had made the first cut in the mesh, I could then cut around where the number plate sort of sits, obviously just in reverse, so that we can bend the mesh in behind that inlay. And now that I had the mesh cut, I can just bend it around all the edges on that bottom grille. I've never done this before, but I felt like I was doing the right thing. And there we have the bottom grille sort of shaped into place, and this is going to look so cool when it's painted. Look at this. Perfect, man. That is just enough. It's not too much. I'm actually quite happy with how small the grille holes are. I think that's going to look so cool. And then we have the top bit of mesh roughly sitting where it wants to go. It needs to go up a bit on this side, obviously. I'll have a bit of muck about with it once this bumper's all painted, and especially with having the exposed mesh there, I might actually run a wee bit of rubber along the top of that just to save your fingers from getting chopped off. But aye, so there we go, that's both bits of mesh where they want to go. I then went ahead and roughly fitted both front and back bumpers to the Starlet, and this is how it was looking. We're finally going to be painting the car. The car's been sat in primer for a few weeks now, and I'm just sick of looking at it like this. I want it all to be shiny again, so that's the reason that we're painting it in this video. So I don't want to talk much more, I want to get on with this. So first things first, let's get the bumpers off this car, and then we can sand down that primer and get on with this. I can't wait. Let's do it. Let's get right into it. So I could start off by removing both front and back bumpers on the car, and this was really simple. It was literally 2 bolts to the front and then the same for the back, 2 bolts for that as well. Obviously I'd never really fitted these properly because there was no point. I knew they were coming off anyway. I then went around the specific areas that I'd repaired on the cars and blocked them down first before we could hit it with a sander. These were looking a lot better already, but now we can get the sander out. So I'm using a 320 grit disc here and we're just trying to sand that all down. I showed you guys what primer looks like up close when we'd done the bumpers for the car, but pretty much it's got an orange peely finish to it and we were just trying to smooth it off. So I'm starting with that 320 grit and then working up to 500. I can then move round to the driver's side front wing on the car and we're just repeating the exact same process, going over it with the 320 grit disc and then the 500 as well. And I thought it was going to take a lot longer than it did to sand the primer, and don't get me wrong, it did take a while, but nowhere near as long as I thought it was going to take. I then sanded down the quarter on the driver's side as well. This wasn't too tricky to sand either. It was pretty much the exact same as the other side. This one just had less repairs in it. After finishing off the rear quarter, I can move on to that very important smoothed boot lid. Now in a previous video this had a lot of work done to it. Obviously it had a massive gaping hole in it, it all got welded up and we welded up the window wiper as well. So it's completely smooth and I just couldn't wait to see this painted. So we're one step closer just by sanding it. Well, there we have it, that is the primer sanded down on the Starlet. That was a lot of work. I was trying to get around it as fastly and efficiently as possible. Obviously still doing a good job, but I wanted to get around it pretty quick. So no brakes going round that, but we've managed to get round the car. That is all the primer sanded down. It's looking good, like. So yeah, there we go. That's the primer areas sanded down. You can see they're all feathered back nice for the base coat. Now I finished the paintwork off on the car with a 500 grit disc and then a grey Scotch-Brite pad. But we're going to be painting this car with solvent base coat. So what I'm actually going to be doing is giving the full car a wet flatten as well. Now I'm going to be wet flattening it with 1500 grit sandpaper, and this is just so that the solvent base coat lays a lot nicer and a lot flatter on the body of the car. Obviously we're doing a lot of paintwork on this car, so I want it to look good. So wet flattening the paintwork actually lets the solvent base coat just sit a lot nicer on the body of the car, and usually I actually end up doing a lot less coats of the base coat because it's just sitting that nice on the body of the car, and it covers it a lot better. So let's get this blown off and then wet flatten it. So for wet flattening the car, I decided to pull it outside so that I didn't get the unit floor wet because I still had to clean that. But that's besides the point. So I'm literally just scruffing down the whole car with a 1500. It's really simple and I just had to do that over the whole thing. And that is the unit cleaned out, the Starlet back in, and I've actually panel wiped it as well. So all that's left to do now before we can paint it is mask the whole thing up. Now you might have thought that sanding the primer down took the longest time, but it's actually the masking. We're going to be here for a while, but it needs to be done, so let's do it. So I started by masking up the driver's side of the car, and I'm using a bunch of different masking techniques for this job because it's such a big job. Now on the front wing you'll see there, I'm doing back masking. This is so I can stick some sheeting round that lip, just so it protects the wheel and other parts that I don't want to get paint on. And then in that door shut there, I'm using a lip edge so that we get a nice soft edge when we go to peel the tape off, and there's just a nice transition between the new paint and the old paint. can then jack up the back end of the car and take both back wheels off, because I want to paint the back arches on the car. They just look a bit dull and a bit old, so I want to put some fresh blue paint into there so that it all matches the rest of the car. I've done this on every car that I've painted. I've done it on my Escort and I've done it on the Nova as well. So it just adds a little bit of detail behind the wheel, and people do see it, people do notice it, so it does make a difference. Wow, and that is the Starlet ready for paint. All I need to do now is give it a good clean off, but it's all sheeted, it's all masked up. Look at it, man, it looks so professional in here. Aye, really happy with this. It took a long time, like, it's probably been quick for you, but it took a long time to do this in person. But yes, it's all done, car's jacked up so we can put a wee bit of paint in the arch maybe, and aye, we're pretty much ready to go. So everyone's all sheeted up. As you can see, everyone's masked up that we don't want to get paint on, so we're pretty much ready to go. So let's clean it off and then we'll get some paint mixed up. And here is the paint for the Toyota. We're keeping it original. This is Toyota Light Blue Metallic. Very simple name, but it does what it says on the tin, literally. It's such a nice colour though. Can't wait to get this on. So we've got 2.5 litres of this. This will do obviously the whole car, the bumpers and stuff, and the mirrors and the handles as well. So aye, we'll get this mixed up, but what a nice colour, man. So I can get the paint into a paint cup and get it all mixed up so we can get into the gun, and that was a terrible pour. Wasted quite a bit of paint there, but it is what it is. So we're mixing this at a ratio of 2:1 because this is solvent base coat. So it's just 2:1, paint first part and then thinners the second part, and then we can get that mixed up and into the gun. Right, the paint's in the gun, the car's all cleaned off, ready to go. It's time to paint the Starlet. I can't believe it. I'm so excited, I can't wait to get it done. Aye, it's been a long time coming, so let's get this painted. And here we go with the first coat of paint onto the car. So with this one, I'm just putting it over the specific areas that have been primed just to get that first bit of coverage on there. I'm not going too heavy, just a nice little dust coat. But here is the second coat and I'll leave you to watch it. This is now the third coat of base coat onto the Starlet, and you can see after that second coat it started to cover a lot better now. That's one full coat over the whole car, so I can do the exact same again just to get it even better. I then done one last coat of base coat, and this really wasn't a heavy coat, it was just another slight dust coat, just to make sure all the metallics in the paint were sitting nice and flat, ready for lacquer. It was amazing even to see the car in this stage where it was just in base coat, but I was even more excited to get it into lacquer so that it was nice and shiny once again. Okay, base coat is complete on the Starlet. It's looking really good how it is right now. It's sitting nice and flat, it's all bone dry, so it's time for lacquer. I'm absolutely sweating, but we're almost there. So let's get some lacquer onto the car. Here we go, first coat of lacquer onto the Starlet. Now unfortunately this is the only clip I got of doing the lacquer on the car because my phone died, and obviously the lacquer is going to dry out if I wait on my phone charging. So here it is. The first coat is always very nerve wracking because this is the best opportunity for the clear coat to run. So let's see how we get on. So yeah, as I say, unfortunately that was the only clippy lacquer that I got on the car, but it was soon dry, and this is how it was looking. Right, and it's now a little while later, and the Starlet is completely painted. It looks absolutely unreal. I'm so blown away with it. I was a wee bit frustrated that I didn't manage to get the second coat of lacquer filmed in that, but you get a time limit with lacquer, you know, it goes off pretty quick, so I didn't have time to charge my phone, wait for that, and then set it up again and film. But it's done. I mean, oh my god, man, look at that. It's absolutely unreal. It's such a sparkly colour as well. I'm so, I just cannot believe it, man. There's no much words to describe it. It just looks unreal. I'm genuinely so chuffed with it. I just can't wait to get this masking off it and that. It's completely dry already. The space heater's been absolutely brilliant to help this dry and get it off quick as well. No runs, finish is great, and once this is all demasked and stuff, we just need to polish it and it's pretty much done. But honestly, I can't believe it. I'm so happy. So here is a little look at the car before we take the masking off. It looks amazing, man. The shine's brilliant. Look at the sort of metallic in there. It looks absolutely unreal. So starting around at the back, we've got the smooth boot. You can see what it looks like now when it's finished. It genuinely looks so much better than if we had the lock and all that. It looks so good smooth. Obviously we're missing that wiper as well, so that's all gone. Back panel's painted as well. We've got the rear quarter, and then I took the back wheels off and we painted the arches as well. So if you see in behind the wheels, you just get a bit of colour pop in there as well. There we go. So doors done, wing, obviously, bonnet, round this side, exact same wing, door, quarter. But it just looks absolutely unreal, man. I'm so happy with it. And it's actually turned out quite a clean job. Obviously, we're painting in a unit, but it's actually not too bad. So yeah, I'm really chuffed with this, obviously. This rear arch as well is all painted, looking absolutely amazing. So there is the look of the Starlet. I'm so chuffed with it. So let's get this masking off it now. All that hard work, let's rip it right back off. So I could take all of that hard work back off the car, all that masking that we had done, hours of work, straight back off the car. However, it's not all negative. This is such a satisfying job to do. It is the best part of it because you get to see what the car's going to start to look like once you build it all back up. Right, so it's now been a couple of days since we painted the Starlet and it is still looking absolutely unreal. So what I want to do now is pull it outside to see what it looks like in the daylight, because I've actually not moved it at all since painting it. It's still in the exact same spot, and obviously we've only seen it under the artificial lights. So it's not particularly sunny out there, but it'll give us a good look at the car. So I want to take it outside, have a look at it, and then I want to show you what I've got to do next for the car, which I won't bore you to death with, but it's going to be a long process and it always has to be done. But yeah, I'll show you a little snippet of that. But for now, let's pull the car outside. And here is the car outside, man. That colour absolutely pops outside. Obviously we still need to flatten and polish the car, but that is looking absolutely unreal. That looks amazing, man. I'm so happy with that. Right, I've brought the Starlet back inside now, and just because we've resprayed the car, that doesn't mean all the hard work's done now. Obviously I still have to paint the bumpers and stuff and all the little panels, but with the actual car itself there's still loads more work to be done, and the main job with that is flattening and polishing the paintwork. Obviously the paintwork looks great right now, but it's not perfect, so if we actually go up close, you can see we've got a wee bit of an orange peel finish, which isn't bad at all. It's actually a pretty good finish, but you'll see slight dirt nibs in the paintwork, and obviously because we're painting in a unit, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, so we need to flatten those out, and they will come out with flattening and polishing it. So unfortunately for me, I need to go over the whole car and do it to every panel that I've painted, but for you, I'm just going to show you how I do it on the front wing, so let's do it. So for this job we're going to be using 1500 wet and dry, 2000 grit wet and dry, and then a 3000 grit Trizac and a 6000 grit Trizac as well. And as you can see with the light on the paintwork there, you can see all the imperfections now. So it's a long process, but it needs to be done. So I can start off with that 1500 grit wet and dry sandpaper. Now I'm just going back and forward with it on the wing, just doing straight lines. You can also do this with a block, but I always just do it by hand. I can then grab a microfiber cloth and wipe down the whole wing until it's dry. And now that the wing's dry from 1500 in it, you can see it highlights all the imperfections in the paintwork. All those dirt nibs are all highlighted now, and it shows us what we need to take out. I can then grab the 1500 grit sandpaper again. You can do this with 2000 as well, but I wanted to do 1500 just for speed, and then you can just go over each individual dirt nib that you see or imperfection. This might take a couple tries, but you will get it. And there we go, that is the imperfections taken out of the wing. All those dirt nibs gone now, so we can go over it with a 2000 grit bit of sandpaper now, just to remove those 1500 scratches. So now I can get the 3000 grit Trizac onto the sander and go over the full wing. Now the slower you go with this, the better results you tend to get. So that's what we're doing here. Once I'm finished up with the 3000 grit Trizac, I can get the 6000 there onto the sander, and a lot of people don't actually use the 6000, they just go straight from the 3000 to polishing, but I've always used 6000, so that's what I do. And once I've wiped that down, you can see there's pretty much a shine on the panel now, so all we need to do is give it a polish up and it should be mint. So for polishing, I've picked a specific area on the wing. I'm not trying to get the full wing polished up in one go. We're also going to be doing multiple passes. Usually it takes around 3 passes to get most of the scratch marks out of the panel, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm using G3 compound for this, and this is also a Milwaukee rotary polisher, so it tends to cut into the paint a lot better. And there we go, that is the front wing polished up, and look at how good that looks, man. It looks absolutely brilliant. Look at the difference between the top of the wing here and the bonnet there. You can see the amount of orange peel in there, and you can see there's pretty much none on the top of the wing there. It's the same when looking at the door. Here's the finish on the door, which still is good, but it's not as good as that there on the wing. So I'll pull the front end of the car out of the unit just so you can see the front wing in the daylight, but aye, we need to get the rest of the car looking like that and it'll be perfect. And there we go, outside the wing looks even better. You can see with that natural light on it, it just looks amazing, man. I'm so chuffed with that. So if I can do that with the rest of the car, I'll be very, very happy. Well, there we have it. That is the main part of paintwork complete on the little Starlet. I can't believe how far it's come along already. It's been such an amazing car to work on. It's been really fun seeing the transformation on it so far. Obviously, we've still got quite a bit of paintwork to do. We've got the front and back bumper to paint. We've got the handles, the wing mirrors, and then other miscellaneous bits before we can get it all built back up. But so far, I'm really happy with it, and especially that front wing. You got to see the process of flattening and polishing. It's pretty boring, but it needs to be done, and you get the results from it as well. That looks amazing. So I just need to do the rest of the car now, and that's what I'm going to do after this video. Now, in last week's video, we managed to get the paintwork done on the body of the Starlet, and it was looking absolutely minted. Still so chuffed with it. It still looks absolutely amazing. But in this week's video, we need to paint the custom front and back bumper for this. Now, in a previous video, we primed them and rubbed down the primer as well, so we've not got that much work to do prep-wise. So all I need to do is get these wet flattened down, and then they're pretty much ready for paint. We're going to paint another couple of the trims for the car as well, but I can't wait to get these bumpers painted because we can get them back onto the car and then see what it's going to start to look like once it's done. So let's get straight into this. So first things first, I actually need to finish off a repair on the front bumper. Now, I'd finished off this piece with fiberglass, but I need to go over and fill any pinholes with some more filler. I then seen a couple more small pinholes on the face of the bumper as well, so I went ahead and filled them too, so that we could get them nice and smooth. While that filler was drying, I moved on to the back bumper and ran over the whole bumper with a 500 grit bit of sandpaper on the sander. Now, I'd already went over it with a 500 before, but these bumpers have been sitting around for a while, so I just went over them just to make sure they were nice and smooth. I could then go ahead and wet flatten the back bumper as well, because we're painting this with the same solvent base coat that we painted the shell of the car with. I also wanted to get this boot trim painted today as well, so I sanded that down using 500 grit as well. There wasn't really any damage to this, there was just a few scuffs, so I just went over it, went round the edges, and then wet and flattened this as well. And by the time I'd sanded down both of those parts, the filler on the front bumper was dry, so I could start off by sanding that with a 320. I filed those edges back, and then I went over the whole bumper with a 500 once again. I really needed to make sure I was hitting every area on the bumper with that 500 disc, because we need the bumper to be as smooth as possible and the least amount of scratches in it as possible, because we're painting with a really light base coat and you'll see the scratches right through it if you don't get it right. So I've had to be extra cautious when I've been prepping the panels for this car. And there we have it, that is the front and back bumper all sanded down, ready to go for paint. Obviously we sanded them down the last time, but they've been sitting about for a good few weeks now, so they've been resanded. I gave them a quick run over with the 500 on the sander, and then obviously wet flattened them as well, as you would have seen. Obviously I fixed the repair as well on that top part of the front bumper, but we're all ready to go now. So I'm going to put some new masking tape on the stand, and then we're essentially ready. But aye, these are definitely ready to go for paint, and the wee boot trim as well that's over there, that's ready to go. So yeah, can't wait for this. So I went ahead and put some masking tape down on the stand to make sure it was as clean as possible, and then I could grab the bumpers and give them a panel wipe as well. This is to get them as clean as possible and ready for paint. This is water-based panel wipe, which is used on plastics, so this is perfect for this job. Right, and that's me all set up, ready to paint. We've got the flow wet, we've got the light, we've got the heater on the bumpers, and I have the boot trim set up as well on the air fryer box. So thankfully I got an air fryer so we could set up that. But yeah, we're ready to go. So all we need to do now is mix up some paint, and then we can paint the bumpers, because that's what you do with the paint. Right, let's get this done. We still have absolutely loads of this paint, man. Ordered way too much, but that's what it is. We can always respray it again or something, I don't know. But we've got way too much. If you've watched the videos before, you'll know that this paint is mixed up at a ratio of 2:1. So this is the first part we're putting in, which is the base coat, so I can get that right up to the line where we need it, and then I can mix the second part in, which is thinners, and then we can mix it all together and get it into the gun. I then wiped over all three parts with a tack rag, and what this does is basically picks up any last bits of debris or dirt left on the panel and just takes it off before you paint it, because you don't want that in the paint, or you want to reduce it as much as possible. Right, I'm ready to paint. Let's get some base coat onto the bumpers. So with the first coat of base coat, I'm just going over lightly, giving them a dust coat just to make sure that they've got some colour on there, and as you can see, it's covering pretty well, especially for it being a light colour. So this is the first coat, and now here is the second coat. Right, and that is the base coat on the bumpers complete. You can see the metallic sitting nice and flat. The colour looks really good. It's obviously going to pop a lot more once we're in lacquer, but for where we're at right now, it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. And also the boot trim's been painted as well, so we're pretty much ready for lacquer. I just need to mix it up. So let's get some lacquer on these. It's now time for the first coat of lacquer on the panels, but before I done that, I went over them with a tack rag again just to make sure they were as clean as possible. But now I can get that first coat on, and this is always a nerve-wracking point of the job. You want to get a nice enough coat on there for the second coat to grip, but you don't want to go too heavy to the point where it starts running on your first coat. That would be a nightmare. And talking of second coats of lacquer, this is the second coat here on the bumpers. You can see I'm going much heavier here, even though it's in time lapse, but I'm going for as nice a finish as possible without getting any runs. And there we have it, that is the front and back bumpers painted for the Starlet. They look absolutely unreal. They're just drying off at the moment. But wow, what a colour, man. It looks amazing on the bumpers as well. Obviously I'd smoothed off this back bumper. It used to have the little bump strips there on each corner. They're gone on both sides obviously. We tidied up the hole for the exhaust, and then the front bumper as well. We've done a lot of work on this, obviously smoothed off the corners, and then we cut all the grills out of the front bumper so that we can put some black mesh behind there. So aye, what a difference, man. They look absolutely unreal in colour. It's good to finally see them in colour as well, but I'm so chuffed with them. They look amazing. So now I just need to leave them to dry. So that's the front and back bumpers pretty much dry now. The heat lamp's been on them for a while, so they're pretty much ready to go back on the car. Obviously we still need to do quite a bit of work to the front bumper with the mesh. We need to glue that on somehow or stick it on. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. But we can fit the back bumper because there's nothing left to do to that. We smoothed it off, we painted it. There's nothing to go on that. So we can fit this to the car. So I'm going to bring the car in and we'll get the back bumper on. So I can work on getting that back bumper back onto the car now, and usually with a bumper it's a two-man job, but with these tiny bumpers you can get it on yourself. To actually mount the bumper onto the car it's a few 10mm bolts. We've got 3 along the back in the middle, 2 on the corners and then a few underneath. It couldn't be much simpler, it is so easy. And that is the back bumper roughly fitted up. I still have a couple of bolts to put underneath, but there we go, pretty happy with that. Obviously this passenger side is fitting up completely fine, but if we go around to the driver's side, it's still not great. It's never lined up well. You can see there is a slight split in this back bumper here, so it's never going to line up bang on. But I think I might take that bolt out in the future and have a muck about with it to see if I can get it any tighter to the quarter, because it's got a bit of a gap in it. And I say a bit, it's got quite a big gap in it. But we've got the bolts in the middle, on the top there, so aye, we're pretty much there. So that looks very, very cool. It's definitely much better than it was before though, with it smoothed off and obviously repainted to the new colour. Right, it's now been a few days since I painted both the bumpers for the Starlet, but now it's completely dry, so we can fit the mesh to the back of the front bumper. So we've got the lower part of the grille and then the top part as well. But I've got my dad along to help me. We're going to try and blowtorch some cable ties and melt them into the back of the grille, and we'll see how we get on with that. So here is the mesh pieces. We roughly fitted these up in the last video when we were making the bumpers, so just need to shape them a bit more and then we can start to stick them down. So we're almost there. So once we got the mesh moulded to the shape of the bumper as best as possible, we tried to melt down some plastic cable ties with the blowtorch and hope that that would stick the mesh down to the plastic bumper. But ultimately, this didn't work. We ended up setting fire to the fiberglass that I'd worked so hard on. So we stopped that, and then we went to a different method. And unfortunately, the melted cable tie trick did not work. It's barely stuck down. You can see it's just melting the fiberglass that I'd put on there. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go to something else. But fortunately though, I do have some new tiger steel there, so we're just going to have to use that. It'll take a bit longer and stuff to dry, but that's what's going to have to be done. Can't really think of any other way to do it, to be fair. So I'm going to try tiger steel. And that's what we've done. So we started on the top grill first, and pretty much we just put 2 big blobs on each end of the grill and just spread it around with a wee wooden stick. We then masked them up to keep the pressure down on them, and then we moved around and put a few more beads along the centre of that grill as well. And then we could move on to the bottom grill. Right, and it's now the day after me and my dad tiger sealed the front grills onto the front bumper. I'm hoping that they've stuck on, but we'll just have to see. So I'm going to start peeling the tape off and see if the grills are still going to be stuck to the bumper. Hopefully they are. And that's the tape off of the grill, and so far so good. They seem to be on there. I don't want to pull it too hard, but they seem to be on there anyway. The bottom grill was the hardest one to do actually, because it was all individual bits that we had to put on. At least with the top one, we were able to do a nice beady sealer along there. But they seem to be on. So grills are on, that can only mean one thing. We can finally fit this custom front bumper to the Starlet. It's been a lot of work. This has been weeks and weeks of work. Obviously we've done all the repair work on it, cut it all to pieces, then built it back up with primer, repairs, painted it, and then we've managed to finally fit that mesh. So let's get it on the car. Can't wait. I could then grab the tools needed for fitting the front bumper back to the car, which was a little ratchet, an extension and a 10mm socket, as well as a screwdriver. So not the most complex tools in the game. I can now grab the bumper itself and mount it up roughly to the front end of the car. To fit the corners of the bumpers up to the wing on the car, it's just a 10mm bolt. This is really simple, so I can start hand tightening it in, and then I can grab the ratchet and tighten it up fully. I can then do the exact same on the passenger side corner, just tighten that bolt up as much as possible. There was then some more 10mm bolts to tighten up underneath the bumper, and there was actually 2 in the bottom grille part as well. But again, this was really simple to do. I can then mount the indicator back into the car. This has been off the car for ages, so I actually forgot how to do it, but you just put the bulb in and then it's a little screwdriver. So easy again. And that's the custom front bumper fitted up to the Starlet, and I must say, that looks absolutely unreal. It's fully bolted on, I've put the indicators in, I've put every bolt into the bumper, even the 2 screws on the top there, and it's fitted up really, really nice, and it just looks brilliant, man. It actually looks like a factory option. I'm really chuffed with how it's turned out. The grills look amazing as well. Obviously you can see the top of this grill here, there is a wee bit of a gap, but if you come up here, you're never going to see that. Nobody's going to be down at this height anyway, I don't think. But I'm just so impressed with how this has turned out. I'll put a photo up on the screen of what this front bumper looked like before compared to what it's like now. It looks absolutely amazing. It looks completely different and a lot more sporty as well. Today we are going to be fitting these lovely teen Lauren springs. Now right now on the car, I think we've got 30mm on it. I never done it, they were on it already, but these are 50mm for the front and very specifically 57mm for the back. So I can't wait to fit these. We're going to get these on. I've got Jude and Jan with me today, and we're also going to be fitting up the Enki wheels that we fully refurbished in our previous video as well. So I can't wait to get these on. You won't be able to see the full car in this video because we'll save that for the review. But yeah, we'll get the springs on. That's the first job we're going to do. I also need to get some number plates and stuff and fit the backlights, so we'll do other miscellaneous bits. But first job, let's get the springs on. We started off by jacking up the front end of the car. This was so we could remove both front wheels, and we jacked it up on a part of the front panel, so it was strong enough. Jude and Jan then instantly took all my tools and started unbolting things. They started off by unbolting the strut. This was 2 bolts at the bottom. The brake pipe flexi was also mounted to the strut, so they had to unbolt that as well.
Brake hose.
And then last but not least, there was the 3 10mm top mount bolts. These were easy enough.
Aiden's the biggest slacker in history.
Yeah.
Guy's doing nothing.
And Jude wasn't wrong, to be fair. I was just walking about with the camera while they were removing the struts. So Jude's strut came out first, and then Jan could remove his. So after that very long process of fitting up the first new spring to the shock, I thought I'd just set up the camera and get on with doing the second spring. So first things first, I need to get that spring under tension, so I've got the clamps on it and I'm buzzing it down with the gun. We can then remove it, and then Jude removes the clamps, and then we can start to fit the new one. And it's just exactly the same process as you've just seen. So we're fitting up the clamps to the new spring now, so we can get enough tension on it to the point where we can get the top mount on it. Unfortunately we didn't have enough here, so we're tightening it down some more, and then we got that top mount on there. So I started off by fitting the passenger side strut, and Jude and Jan were over on the driver's side getting that one in. I then asked for a bit of help for Jude because it just wasn't sorting in properly, so we figured it out and then we got them all bolted up, and now it was time to fit those wheels. Okay, so that is both front shocks in. I've put one of the Mazda MX-5 wheels on the passenger side now because we actually only have 2 Yankee wheels on the bead, so we need to go and get the other 2 done, but we'll do that later on. So we put 2 Yankees on this side so we can see one side, and then put the MX-5s on there. But I did have to get new wheel bolts to fit the Yankee wheels, so we've got some tuner bolts. So they're like the spline type. But you get the tool there for it, and it's either a 19 or a 21, I think. So yeah, this is exciting. Let's get an Yankee. Right.
Moment of truth.
Let's lower the jack. And this is a big moment right now. We've fitted new suspension and new wheels to the car, so if it doesn't sit right, we've opened up a whole can of worms. And while we're here, if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please make sure you subscribe now if you're enjoying the videos. Okay, lower it, Jan, with the new springs. Let's see how we go. Still going. Oh, money. That's like bang on. Oh yeah. That'll settle. Now we just have to do the back end, so let's get straight on with it. We started off just like we did with the front end of the car and removed both wheels first. We could then move inside the car and remove those top bolts. There was only 2 of these on the back end and they were easy enough, so we just loosened them right now, not fully removing them. We could then go into the wheel arch and remove the one big bolt holding on the suspension strut, and luckily with the Starlet the suspension is all one piece. It's quite common to see a shock and a spring separate on a car, but luckily for us it's all one piece. So we've got that one bolt to remove and then those top mount bolts, and then we can bring it right out. Could then refit the shock back to the car, and me and Jude were actually doing this in a pair, so it made it a bit easier for lining up that bottom bolt on the shock. They were honestly so straightforward to fit, it literally took us about 5 minutes, and it's only about 3 bolts as well for each shock. Release it! That's like perfect. Just on the arch, ideal. That's exactly what we're after. We're going to take it round the industrial estate to see what it's like. There's a few speed bumps in here, so let's see what it rides like. First drive. First speed bump. It's definitely still. Yeah, nice. Feels like a car.
Does feel like a car. It doesn't seem too bad.
Aye, but we'll not get a proper test until it's like MOT'd and all that again, but for now. I mean, and Jude's like right in the back of the car, and it's no rubbing or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Not anything, yeah. Yeah, and there's one speed bump.
Doesn't seem any stiffer than like the Nova, really.
Nah, it's actually less than the Nova. The Nova's really bad. So yeah, I think successful, so let's go back to the unit. Now today we are finally revealing the end result of what has been a lot of work on the channel over the past 2 months. Here it is, the Toyota Starlet. It's finished! Ta-da! So here it is, the end result of the Toyota Starlet transformation. It looks absolutely unreal on this very, very wet day. It is what it is. We're filming in January, so you're not going to get a scorching day, but it still looks absolutely amazing. It's going to get pretty dirty today because we are going to drive it. But before we do that, we'll do the little walk around like we always do and show you what's been done to the car. So starting off at the front end of the car, this has had a lot more custom work than what we usually do with the cars on the channel. We started off with the front bumper. Now this was really badly damaged. It had random paint on the corners of this. We had little bump strips going up here. We had grills along the bottom and along the top, but that is looking completely different now. So I cut those grills out, smoothed them all off, put new bits of fiberglass and plastic in there, and then primed it and painted it, and it looks pretty factory, I must say. We also added in the mesh grills on the top and bottom. New plate as well. Jude and Jan aren't fans of that because it's got the new lettering, but I didn't care. We also kept the original Toyota badge for the car. We left it off the back, as you'll see soon, but we put this original one back on. So I retaped that, stuck that back on after we painted the car. But yeah, apart from that, pretty standard on the front end. I mean, standard headlights and stuff. We didn't go for Glanza ones, and we probably need a new indicator because it comes out a bit, but we'll get to that later down the line. So moving on to the side of the car, this is one of the best angles yet, to be fair. Obviously we have the fresh paintwork from the respray, colour coded mirrors, colour coded door handles, and the original colour as well. We also have these NK CPS2s. Now these were absolutely battered when I first picked them up. It was Jude that actually sent me them, and I'm glad he did because they were a lot of work, but now that they're done they look absolutely amazing. There was a bit of dirt on them, but you get the idea. It's a shame with the weather. I also painted the calipers. Those, it's just gloss black paint. I wanted to keep it subtle for this because I didn't want to take away from the finish of the wheel. We also lowered the car as well, so we've got a nice bit of arch gap. Yeah, we have a little bit of arch gap, but it's pretty much perfect. If we went any lower, it would just be absolutely terrible to drive. We're still missing some clips. I need to get new clips for these. These all broke when I took the arch liner out when we went to paint the car, so we'll need some new clips. Rest of the side, as I said, mirrors, handles, everything else is standard. We removed the bump strips, or lack of bump strips. There wasn't many on it, to be fair. I think there was one on the other side. So those came off anyway, and we've left it just with the original mould of the body of the car. This quarter, now, this was a lot of work. It was absolutely battered when I first got the car. It was full of filler. It's still got filler in it right now, but we completely took all that off because we needed to get back down to bare metal and check that it was okay. So we took that back to bare metal after sanding for I think over 20 minutes, sanded, filled out, and then I've re-repaired it. It is not perfect. You might see a couple of the lines that are not perfect. I mean, there's one here, it's not bang on, but honestly it is so much better than it was when we first got the car. Also down there's a wee bit of dent, but it was never going to be perfect without replacing the quarter, and replacing the quarter on what is essentially a very cheap car, it's not really worth it. So we'll come round to the back end. Moving on to the back end of the car, this looked completely different when I first bought the car. I mean, we had a massive gaping hole in this part of the boot where the keyhole used to be, and now that is no more. So I brought Jude in to weld a nice plate into there. I'd originally cut it out. We've still got the bit in the car actually, so I'll maybe get that out. We also got rid of the window wiper and the badge as well. There's no badging on the back because there used to be Toyota Starlet stickers on there, and they're like £30 per sticker, so we'll leave that.
There is one thing we noticed when we were looking at
it. Yeah, there is one thing that we probably should have done, but we didn't notice it until we had fitted the wheels and all that. We've left the washer for the window, but there's no window wiper to wash the washer. So yeah, we actually didn't notice this at all. Nobody noticed it. My dad, anybody, Amy, nobody's noticed it. So I think it'll fly under the radar. Yeah, it's only noticeable if you're the one there, and especially if it ever gets a wraparound spoiler on it, you'll never see it. And talking of wraparound spoilers, I really tried to get one for this car, but it's just so hard. I'd messaged a couple of people, but it never ever came to prosperity, so yeah, big word. But yeah, other stuff on the back end, new plate again. We also repainted the trim for the number plate lights. The number plate lights were fine, so they're still standard. Standard back lights, just polished up, and back bumper completely smoothed as well. These had the same bump strips as the front bumper, but they're gone now as well. A much smoother and cleaner look, and it's also almost got that sort of Glanza look to it without obviously the more flared arches at the back there. Standard, well, no standard exhaust. The exhaust that was on it when I bought it, it probably could do with being changed, maybe a nice roll tip, and the actual way it mounts isn't the greatest either. It's a bit rattly, so can maybe do that, but don't know how long we're keeping the car. And then, last but not least, the driver's side, pretty much the same as the passenger side, but we'll cover the wheels here. So again, NKCPS2 on the back there, painted the drums gloss black to match the front calipers. Again, keeping it understated, I'm not a fan of painted drums, it's just not a bit of me. We also did paint in the rear arches there as well when I painted the car, so I had it jacked right up, no wheels on the back, and got some paint and lacquer in there just so you can see it if you ever do go to look in the arch. But yeah, looking pretty fresh. This back end was lowered as well, so it's actually a bit lower on the back than it is the front, and it's pretty much perfect. I mean, I think we had a wee tiny bit of rubbing when Jude was in the back at the unit when we test drove it, but apart from that, it's been absolutely fine. So, interior. This is all completely standard, and a lot of people have been saying to get different seats, change the interior up a bit, but I'm not that bothered about it. I kind of like the bus seats, to be fair. Pretty stylish. I put a seat cover on the driver's seat just to keep it nice because this interior is in good condition. So all we really done with this was cleaned it up. We shampooed the seats, shampooed the carpets, and just gave it all overall good clean. I also hoovered it the other week when we finished the car to get any dust out, but yeah.
It actually looks like you've bought a different interior for it. It's so much cleaner.
Yeah, it is like so much fresher. Even all like the door cards and that, it just looks different. And again, nice and standard. So yeah, interior, not much to point out on this, but it's clean. And last but not least, we'll check under the bonnet because we did do a bit of work here right at the start when we first started the project on the channel. So under here, we've tidied it up a bit. It was absolutely minging in this engine bay, so we give it a good clean up. We painted the rocker cover, changed the rocker cover gasket as well because that was a bit leaky, and now it looks absolutely brilliant, to be fair. It looks pretty fresh. I mean, it's pretty standard on there, but it looks so much better than it did before. Obviously that cone filter was on there before, could probably do with a new one because as you can see it does obviously rub underneath the bonnet, but that was there when I bought the car, so yeah. I think the rocker cover gasket's been pretty successful as well when I changed it because we have no oil around that lip where it was when we first got the car, so I think it's been a success. But yeah, under the bonnet, pretty much standard but fresh looking. So obviously I'm not alone today, I'm with Jude and Jan. They've helped me film this video, but now all three of us are going to jump in the Starlet and we're going to head to the seaside. We're going to the Fife town of Burnt Island. Let's go! But before we go to Burnt Island, I thought me and Jude should hop in the car and go on a little drive and talk about how it actually drives and how it looks now as well, because it looks pretty different. Comfy there. Yeah. But aye, driving the car, weight being lowered like we done in the last video, it is pretty stiff now, and it's not great over bumps, but it looks really cool. That is one of the best things about it. Yeah, obviously it looks over how it drives.
Yeah, but then, as I said in the last video, it still doesn't drive. It's not as crashy as the Nova. Aye, it's quite nice.
It's not like it's on the bump stops. Like, it's not just solid. You just get a bit of
pause. How is it different to like cars you've had before? What do you enjoy about this one specifically?
I mean, it's actually pretty nippy. That's one thing about the car. 1.3 litre engine, but it goes up the revs pretty well, and the rev limiter sounds pretty good. We've hit that in second a couple of times. Although it does take a while, and there is no rev clock on the gauges here, so you didn't know when it's going to come in. But yeah, it drives alright, it's not bad. Like, even we're going for a 30 right now, and you can just drive along pretty well. There is an exhaust rattle though, which is very annoying.
It is getting on my nerves.
Yeah, so
but, like, it tracks straight.
Yeah.
There's no other noises. It's pretty nice.
It is literally just that exhaust noise, and then when you hit a pothole or a speed bump, you get a bit of bump, and sometimes a scrape if it's a really high one.
True.
But yeah, it is a lowered car. It's an older car as well, so you're going to get noises. I mean, it's not like it's going to have the most sound deadening in the world and that, but that's what it's about. It's good fun. It's cheap motoring as well. I mean, this is an economy car from the 90s, so yeah. What can you expect?
Kind of surprising. Like, everyone says it's the granny's car and all that kind of thing, but it's pretty nippy.
Aye, exactly. I think you'd find the same in like probably the equivalent the 1.3 K11 Micra. It'd be like the same sort of thing. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's slow in that, but they're actually pretty nippy for what they are. And again, this car was purchased for £600, so it's back on the road for a lot of labour cost.
Yeah.
But it's all been mine pretty much. But like, in terms of actually cost on buying stuff and that, it's not been too bad, and the car's back on the road because this car was meant to get bought by someone else, and they were just going to use it over the winter and then scrap it after that. So this car's had a new lease of life, and hopefully, there's a speed bump there, hopefully once I'm done with it, it can continue on the road and keep going for many years to come.
I was saying, this is the perfect base for someone to like take, you know, do stuff to the interior if they wanted, do some engine mods. It's like, it's a very solid foundation if you wanted to build a Starlet.
Definitely, you could
all the hard cosmetic stuff is done. It looks bang on.
Aye, and it's like running bang on as well. That obviously we changed the rocker cover gasket. So aye, we're going through a very tight section. But aye, it's like a really good base. You could go absolutely mental with this car. It's got the looks now, so you could do whatever. Air ride would look pretty cool with these wheels and stuff. I don't know, you could do absolutely anything. Track car, if you wanted to just wreck it again, but it's up to yourself. Strap a turbo to it, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
But,
cool street car.
Yeah. So, aye, good car. Right, we're going to do a 0 to 60 test in the Toyota Starlet. Jude's on the timer. We have £120 tyres on this, the full set were £120. We have a bit of a damp road as well. It's not currently raining, but it has been for the past few days. Yeah. So, I'm going to try and get some wheel spin, and we'll just try and get it clean. So, here we go.
You ready? Are you just going to go while I count you in?
Go, count me in.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Come on!
Well, actually, we're getting there.
60.
There's a 14.79. I'm sure we can do better than that.
What was it? 14?
Yeah.
That's alright.
It's actually pretty
For
good.
a wheel spin?
Yeah.
And the tyres. So now that we've had an actual drive of the car, let's go on the road to Burnt Island, which is pretty much just motorways. So yeah, at least we got this part. Cool, let's go. Welcome. Welcome.
This is shit.
The smell that.
Why couldn't you bought
back there?
Why couldn't you bought a limousine or something?
Do you know I've got an S500 long wheelbase project?
I'm glad I'm driving.
Emphasis on the project. We in the project.
Okay, we are free up in the Starlet. It's a bit cramped over this side of the car, but we're now going to get on our trip to Burnt Island. Who's excited? Who's excited?
And the crowd goes mild.
Woo! Yeah! Oh my God. So we were on the road heading towards Burnt Island, and with the time we went at, it was rush hour traffic. It was going to take a bit longer, but we were definitely going to get there. And that motorway traffic continued to be pretty bad, but we were slowly but surely making it to our destination. So we're now on to the next part of the motorway. We're getting towards the 4th Road Bridge, the Queensferry Crossing, as it's actually called. We're fogging up pretty bad in here, but it is what it is. We're maintaining it. And we'll eventually get to Burnt Island. That traffic was pretty heavy back there, but it's sort of cleared up a bit. We're doing 52 miles an hour, so we're surely getting there. We have now made it to the Queensferry Crossing. How's everybody enjoying the drive?
So much, it's great, it's lovely.
I love this car, it's so good. Aiden's definitely not paid us to say that.
No, this is not sponsored.
So what have we got? 2-3 more exits till we get to the Burnt Island exit. This is going to be amazing.
You go for the first exit.
Oh.
Nah, exit 1. Or exit 1.
Right, restart. Okay, we've now exited the motorway. We are heading to Burnt Island. We're going the more scenic route. We could have went right up the motorway, but we're going for the prettier way. So let's go.
Where are we going, by the way? You haven't mentioned.
We're going to Burnt Island, a seaside town in the coast of Fife. And eventually we arrived in Burnt Island, so now we could get parked up at the seaside. We've arrived at the seafront, quite literally, it is right there. The waves are pretty harsh today, we've got a lot of wind. But we're going to go out.
Get drenched.
Yeah. And we're going to have to drive back to get an ice cream, unfortunately, but we are at the seaside.
I'm going to hour drive back in the Starlet, man.
Tell you what, just drop me off home, I'll get my car.
Yeah, but I could actually drop you same. So we hopped out of the Starlet and headed to go and get an authentic seaside ice cream on this beautiful day. Ice cream time for me and Jude. Got to do the seaside proper.
Something's got to save this day, like, it's bleak.
There we go.
It's saved the day, this is really good.
Great success, raspberry ripple and fudge or something. How's your ice cream, yeah?
Really good. Sensational. Finished already.
Yeah.
Restoration expert turned food vlogger Aidan Galloway.
Yeah. Successful, the car's done. Just not got the weather for it. Unfortunately. But they might be driven, eh? Well, there we have it. We've made it to Burnt Island on this lovely Friday afternoon. The weather is beautiful. Very scenic area actually, it is nice. If this was sunny it would be lovely. Jude's looking very sad behind the camera. But yeah, there we go, Starlet is complete. What a transformation. I don't know what we're going to do next with the car. I would like to take it on a road trip where we actually stay overnight somewhere, so you maybe see that in the next few weeks. But there we go, Starlet is complete. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you have enjoyed the series as well. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like this video, comment down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new or watching my videos and you're not subscribed. See you guys in the next one. Bye. I'm going to go in the sea now.